been a wee while since we've had a guest on. It's certainly been a wee while since we've had a guest on doing what the industry drinks topic. I think it was going back to December last year, the last time we did this, a full 6 months ago, when it was Connell Mackenzie from Adelphi. I'm a wee bit delinquent. I'll try harder in the second half of the year to get a few more guests behind the bar and talk about what the industry likes to drink. Why is that important? Why do I think that that's interesting? Well, the more and more I get to know people that actually work in whiskey, the more you discover just how many of them are impassioned whiskey geeks and really love the fact that they're working in whiskey, and they love to explore whiskey while they do that. And so many of them are so curious about whiskey that they're sipping and discovering and exploring lots and lots of products outside of their own portfolio. And I think that that strengthens their value proposition to their company that they work for and to us as punters that they interact with. I think it gives them much more kind of context. It helps them describe what their whiskies are about better, I believe. But more than anything, I think it's just nice to hang out with them from time to time and discover what makes these folk tick. And what a lot of people see as being one of the world's best jobs. Anyway, tonight I'm looking forward to it, particularly because it's one of the industry folk that I've known longer than most others. And he's a fantastic guy, and we'll get to hang out and enjoy a few what the industry drinks tonight. Looking forward to it, and I'll see you in a second. Hello, whiskey folk. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Thursday night. Welcome to another session of the vPub. As always, I hope you're doing very, very well. I hope you're sitting comfortably, and I hope you've got something nice in the glass. Whether or not you're going along with our theme tonight of the 5 drinks, I wonder if I could remember what the categories are and tease you with it just now. We've got the Permashelf bottle, you know, the one always on hand bottle. We've got the crowd pleaser, the something that you would pour for guests and things, something that you know is going to go over quite well. The Decadent Pour, that's something that you're going to pour to really treat yourself, a self-indulgent pour. Then we've got the VIP Pour, something special that you're going to pour for someone special, or maybe a peer whiskey geek that you're entertaining, or whatever it may be. And then finally, the attention grabber, one of those whiskies right at the end of a flight, the end of the night, whatever it is, that really, this, whatever the conversation is, whatever the social mix is or the social context, the whiskey is just so loud and potent and attention grabbing that it just kind of completely soaks you into the glass. That's the 5 categories of whiskies that I'm going to put across to my guest tonight and ask him what he would pick to fill those 5 categories. In between all of that, I'll try very, very hard to interact with all of you guys, so that if you've got any questions tonight, that we can field them. And I've also kind of got the vPub set up tonight and dotted with a few kind of provocative and interesting wee statements that I can get our guest to react to this evening. Anyway, as always, before I welcome in our guest, I'm going to give you all time to get comfy, pull up your bar stool, maybe pour a nice wee dram, whatever it is you're doing. If you're joining us live, that is. If you're joining us in the replay, I hope you've been able to do the same. And welcome if you are picking it up on the replay. I really appreciate the folk that pick this up, catch up podcast style. But if you are comfortable, if you're getting comfortable, I'll jump into the lounge just now and welcome some of you beautiful whiskey folk, dedicated barflies. Cheers, everyone, and welcome to your Thursday night. I hope it's going well. I'm actually looking forward to Friday night. Football starts tomorrow, doesn't it? Let's see how we're doing. As always, I'm looking for the orange. So if you're trying to get my attention, just type Aquavite or add Aquavite, and I'll try my very best to pick up your comments. Sugar Kitty's in looking after us again, one of our moderators. Always great to welcome you, Sugar Kitty. How are you doing tonight? Aquavite, right now, a 15-year-old American light whiskey at 63% ABV from Bull Run. This is quite a thing. We don't have light whiskey here. It's a very American style thing. And I'm not even sure I could name a light whiskey brand, honestly speaking, Sugar Kitty. But as you mention it now, I could probably mention Bull Run, right? If that's what it's actually called. It's maybe just from that brand. Jean Kelly saying hello again, Aquaviti Roy, and fellow barflies. Here's to another cracking session. Well, I hope so, Jean. I hope you enjoy it, but it's wonderful to welcome you in, my friend. Hopefully your plans for visiting Scotland in November are going well too. Hellswood is here. Good to see you, Helen. I hope you're sitting next to Andy, and I hope you're both doing very, very well. She's saying good evening, Roy. Always brilliant to welcome you, Helen. Gino Camo in Canada is saying evening, Roy. Looking good, buddy. Cheers. Thank you very much, Gino. I hope you're sitting comfortably and ready for a wee bit of... Usually join us a wee bit later. You're, 5-6 hours behind us, buddy? But it's always nice to welcome you in. Jeff Whiskey, my pal Jeff, he's saying hello, Aquaviti and Barflies. Great to be able to sit down and watch tonight. Fantastic, Jeff. Brilliant to have you hanging out with us. I wonder if you'll make it to the quiz at the end, big guy. Max Kreitner is saying, good evening, my friend. Always great to be comfy in the vPub with our fellow barflies, and it's always great to be comfortable next to you, Max. Wonderful to have you in. How are things in Austria? Martin Logan is saying, evening, Aquaviti and barflies. I love these industry vPubs. Eager to know what Shilton likes and get his insights on the industry. And as for me, I'll be pouring a Buna Signature Vintage 100 proof to sip along. That 100 proof range has proved very, very successful. Obviously, wonderful bang for buck, sub £50, 57.1% ABV across the range. Very, very sherry driven. Almost all of them are seem to be sherry driven. I'm not aware of any kind of bourbon cask forward ones at the minute. That might be a market demand thing, but I would like to see a wee bit more bourbon stuff at 100 proof. Anybody watching at Signature Vintage, I think that might be nice. I would get interested in that, but it's fantastic value, and I'm glad that you're here, Martin, and I'm glad that you're enjoying it. Gerben is from the Netherlands, is saying good evening. We had a superb day in Vienna with Max Kreitner and Raymaster. Oh, you got to meet Raymaster as well. Fantastic. And obviously, Max and Christina looking after you too. Gerben, I saw some of the photos as well. It looked fantastic. Glad you had a good time. Jeffrey Bangers is here. Good to see you, buddy. Saying hello, Ryan Barflies. I'm listening while finishing up report cards in my classroom for grade 2 students. Going to need to wait till later to raise a dram to you all. Get the work out of the way first, Jeffrey, and then come in when you're off hire and you can relax and enjoy your dram. Look forward to catching you a wee bit later, buddy, when you're doing that. Whiskey Weekend Drama is saying, hi, Roy. Good to see you, Harrow. Always nice to welcome you in. Shayla is here. Whiskey Central is here. Fantastic, Shayla. Good to see you. And my pal, Ryan Sutherland from 8 Doors Distillery, right up the top of the country, saying, good evening, Roy. First time here in a while. Hey, Ryan, pick it up when you can, buddy. It's always great to welcome you in when you can make it. Alistair Gray saying, Agravita evening, sir. Hope you're well. Sipping an Old Perth Manthania this evening, and it's a belter. Sounds fantastic too. Manthania Cask Old Perth. Blended malt whiskey from the guys up at Carnmore, isn't it? Hope it's going down well. Andy Perslow's here. Our baggy. Good to see you, Andy. Good evening, Roy. Aquavita had a drop in as the Going Stud is in. The Going Stud. He's obviously talking about our guest tonight. Superb. Good to see you, Andy. Tom Good is saying, still using the bumper music. Yay. So Tom Good is here. That's amazing. He doesn't always comment. He's not often in, but Tom, years ago, not only did he write the bumper music for the vPub, but he also wrote the music for the Dramface podcast too. So I'll raise a wee glass. It's nice to have Tom in, and it's nice to thank him for giving both products the identity that they've come to be known for. Tom, thank you very much, buddy, and it's good to see you in. Thank you for having the insight that I would need such a thing all those years ago. Robert Fredrickson is here too. Good evening, Roy, and Shilton, and everyone. In Sweden, I enjoy Glenallachie 10, he's saying, but he's having batch 9 tonight. Always brilliant to welcome you, Robert. From Sweden as well, fantastic. And Ben, Whiskey with Molly, preparing for a trip over to the Euros. I'm a wee bit jealous, Ben. Evening, Roy Aquavite. See you tomorrow. I'm hoping I can swing by and make that wee delivery with you tomorrow, Ben. Maybe ping me a wee text tomorrow and let me know what time suits you best. Martin Fielder is saying, afternoon, Barflies. Good afternoon, Martin. Hope you're keeping well. I've missed a lot. A couple of Barflies have joined tonight. Nicholas Barrera is in, saying welcome at... sorry, I need to say welcome to Aquavite Barflies. And Cesare, the fly Mucha, is upgraded to the Patreoniverse. So that's for some people that don't have a Patreon account, don't want to sign up for a Patreon account or something. It's very easy to do, it's very quick, but it is going into a separate environment. So what I did is I set up the Patreoniverse inside the YouTube membership so that people could support in that way as well if they wanted to give them a choice. Cesare, it's wonderful to have your support. And Nicholas Barrera, probably making a mess in that name, Nicholas, but it's nice to have you. Thank you very much. Paul Mannion as well. Also joined the Aquavitae Barflies and a recent patron too, Paul. Wonderful to welcome you supporting in the Barflies too. Fantastic to have you sign up. And Whiskey and Wine Trails, Tom. Good to see you, Tom. Celebrating being a member of Barflies for 25 months. Time flies when you're having fun. Thank you, Roy. So the people that are signing up on YouTube, I talked about this a few vPubs ago. I talked exactly about free whiskey vPub, how I earn and how it's all divided up and everything, how it all works. But the Barflies are here inside YouTube. Click on that YouTube membership button, that join button, in order to keep the vPub and the Aquavitae content, all the content on the channel these days, ad-free. That's what you guys do. And you all seem to appreciate it too. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. But you also seem to enjoy the emoji and the channel-themed content that comes along with signing up to be a Barfly to help you colour up the chat, whether you're participating live or in the comments underneath afterwards. It's wonderful to have all of you supporting. Thank you so much. And Tom Good is saying, cheers, glad to be in. Fantastic, Tom. And Rick Johnson is saying, good afternoon from San Francisco, Roy, and fellow Barflies. Looking forward to another informative time amongst wonderful company. Me too. I'm a wee bit hoarse tonight. I don't know what I've been shouting at. But it feels like I've been shouting or something, and it's I'm just feeling, I hope I'm not coming down with anything. I'm feeling good. It's just my voice is a wee bit stretched. And Greg from Paris is here saying, for those interested, like I said to Roy Aquavitae, thanks to Barfly Martin, we now have a Parisian headquarters if needed for an evening tasting, 10 to 12 people easily if sun can come. Barflies, we are legion, and now we have a bolt and a place to shelter, a wee remote vPub, let's say, over in Paris as well. So he's talking about Martin Logan. He's in Paris and he's in tonight. And obviously Greg is in Paris too. So if there's Barflies visiting Paris, get in touch with Martin or Greg. Perhaps through the Barflies page on Facebook is a good idea, although I don't know if Greg's on there. And you'll be able to meet up with those guys if you're over in Paris. And a wee dram's come in from Mark Finlay. Bought me a dram to say, Aquavitae, cheers, Roy and the Barflies. Cheers to you, Mark. Thank you very much, my friend. Thanks for your dram. Cheers. I've surely welcomed you before, Mark. Familiar name, surely, right? Anyway, wonderful to have so many of you in, hanging out tonight. Obviously, I'm going to just get on. How are we doing for time? Since we've had a guest on. It's certainly been a wee while since we've had a guest on doing what the end drink. Last time we did this. That's very strange. Does anybody else hear all of that audio suddenly coming out from everywhere? And all I did was clap my hands from my phone and from the machine. That's incredible scenes. Anyway, I've shut it up now. That's very strange. I even switched my watch tonight so that Siri wouldn't kick in. Peterhead is here too, saying even Roy still recovering from the trip and the sofa. Good to be back at the bar. The sofa he's talking about is the sofa. He pitched up on our sofa for a night when he was down in Campbelltown. You might have picked up Frank participating in the quiz at the end a couple of vPubs ago when it was hosted by Pete, of course. Rick Johnson is saying the secret Roy. I know Ryan Sutherland is saying, ha, your face was priceless. Hearing your own voice is disturbing at the best of times. When you don't know where it's coming from, it's a wee bit worse, Ryan. Jeff Whiskey is saying it's hand gestures from Apple now. Better not be. I could do without that. And Jimmy Legg is saying Apple has you under a lot of surveillance, Aquavitae. I think it does. The AI has come for you, says Mike Molasses. And Lee J. Whiskey Liberation Front is having a lol at me too. Incredible scenes. How did that happen? I clapped, didn't I? Anyway. Let's put that one down to experience. Let's not leave my guest hanging out any longer in the background. Let's reach out and welcome in Shilton Almeida. It was quite a number of years ago that I met Shilton for the first time. It's amazing how quickly time passes. But I was immediately struck at how warm and friendly and how generous he was with his time too. And ever since that first meeting, any time I've bumped into him, wherever it may be, in and around Glasgow, now that he's a resident, almost Glaswegian, or it's at a festival or a tasting or wherever it may be, it's always amazing to give him a handshake and a hug, and he's always more than welcoming. It's fantastic to hang around with him, and it's even more fantastic to discover how into whiskey he actually is, as we'll discover tonight. Anyway, I'm going to reach out. look for a thumbs up from our pal Shilton. And if he's in good shape, we'll pull him in and see how he's doing. Welcome, my friend. Welcome, Shilton.
Hi, Roy.
Did you see Siri or whatever was trying to interrupt the flow and the fun tonight? And
I couldn't stop laughing from the last conversation we were having about AI.
Yeah, about AI, exactly. I know. It's like, it's not AI, it's just a very weird thing. I'm still troubled by it. How suddenly my muted screen suddenly makes a noise at the same time as this. Very weird. Anyway, we'll work it out. The first thing to do is disconnect the phone from the Mac. Buddy, it's nice to welcome you behind the bar at the vPub. It's been a long time coming. And it's kind of like we talked about this. We wondered why it hadn't happened any earlier than this, but these things come about when they're ready, when the time's good and right? But it was 2017 through our mutual friend, Jason Whiskey-Wise, Jason Viswani, introduced us. We were out for a wee dram, and the pot still that spilled over to being a wee dram up the West End, and it went on for a wee bit longer than, as these things sometimes do. And it was a good night. And that was the first ever night that anybody pulled that barfly pose that will come up a wee bit later tonight. And it was you and I doing it for the first time in the Chip in the West End. And it's been a signature for the channel ever since. But what struck me that night was none of that. What struck me that night, can I share a wee anecdote to kick things off?
Yeah.
We were in the pot still. You were outside for some fresh air, perhaps, or something. I don't know if you smoked at the time or you had a vape or something. I don't know. But back then, you were outside, and Jason was sitting in the pot still, and I said, I'll get around in. And I went up to the bar, and I got us 3 drams, and I sat back down, and you came back in, and you said, what are we drinking? And I said, okay, this is the game we play. It's blind tasting. It's la-da-da. And Jason said, yeah, let's have a bit of fun. So we're all kind of trying to guess. And you picked up the glass, and you nosed it, and you sipped it. And after a while, you said, it reminds me of Green Spot. And the whiskey I poured was a Chateau Montelena, or maybe the Leoville Barton, one of the wine finishes or wine matured green spots. And immediately I thought, okay, this guy's not just a salesman. he actually enjoys. So was that like a genuine thing? Like you can dial into that, or was that a kind of broken clock is right twice a day luck?
That happened. I'll tell you why, Roy. A few days before that, about a week ago or something, I was in Brighton, random. And I tried that whiskey for the first time on the shelf, and I said, wow, this is great. So when I was there in Portugal before, I saw it on the shelf, but I didn't know what you were pouring. Okay, I saw it on the shelf. So when I sipped it, I just connected the dots. Oh, I just tried this. So I saw it on the shelf as well. So there was just connecting the dots straight away.
Educated guesswork. Fantastic. Yeah. So you remember that happening then?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
It tends to be when you get something right, you remember it, right?
Yeah.
It's in the bank. Anyway, buddy, thank you very much for stepping behind the bar. Like I say, it's been a long time coming, and it's nice to finally welcome you. You're now working at Milk and Honey after a number of years at Paul John, after some years in travel retail, and after some years in hospitality. All the while, so you've been in booze for a long time, but it's only a dozen years or so that you've been specifically earning your trade or working your trade in whiskey, right?
Yeah.
Give us a little bit of a summary about what you do now. What do you do in the whiskey industry at the minute?
It's funny. I'm born and brought up in Goa in India. Okay, so my first job ever was in hospitality, because that's what you'll see quite common because it's a tourist destination. So working in the hotels, first job, 2006, I moved to Qatar in the Middle East, working for the travel retail, selling whiskeys. And I always mention this, the best way to learn about something is curiosity. That makes you learn about things. Because about 5 years working in the duty-free shop, I've been selling the most expensive whiskeys, but sadly cannot try, can't even smell anything because I'm not allowed to drink.
No alcohol in Qatar, yes.
Exactly. So we're just at the shop selling, but that's all about the curiosity and, trying to learn by yourself and reading. And I'm talking about a time when there was not much of YouTube or social media where you can try, just read it by yourself.
Yep.
2012, I moved back to India and joined John Distilleries working for Paul John's about 2015, I moved to the UK.
Yep.
And started doing the same job. And it's been 10 years I worked with them, and now 2.5 that I work with M&H, working for same job, but European markets. Salesman, brand ambassador, depends on what hat I want to wear and when.
Yep. Yep. I often refer to you as just an incredible human. I think you're a fantastic people person, Shilton. You're always smiling. You've always got a big handshake. There's always a sense that there's a sense around you, a personality around you that it doesn't. I don't think it would matter what whiskey you're pouring for us. We're just happy to hang out for a little while and chat over it. Whether it's at a tasting, whether it's at a club night, whether it's at a festival, wherever it is we bump into you. Do you? And I know I'm asking this question because I know the answer to it. Do I get the sense that you already feel as passionately as I do that whiskey is wonderful, but it's so much about the people?
It is definitely 100%. And I will maybe later on at some point I will mention this as well. It's about the people, okay? And it's not only as a person working, but whiskey is the most social drink. You could get to a bar, or you can start. It doesn't have to be a whiskey bar. Any bar, you just get to the bar counter and start having a dram, and suddenly someone comes to you and he sees you having a whiskey, and he's just going to start a conversation with you, and you start having a conversation about the whiskey. You don't do the same with a gin tonic, do you?
No.
Or a beer, no. So whiskey is how you socialize with people, and for me personally, it's to enjoy. It's to have a good time. It's about the memories. It can be anything. It could be talking about football, cricket, or anything. But just have a good laugh, chat, memories with friends, and that's the best way of enjoying a whiskey, is in the good company.
I've always been very, very fortunate, Shilton, that the amount of people that I've met through whiskey that I would never had any business meeting otherwise. And the amazing thing is that you get to know them as people first, right? Before anything, any of the baggage that they may or may not carry, which I'm going to bring up just because we're on topic. I'll bring up one of our first kind of our true or false prods that we're going to have scattered throughout tonight. You and I have already touched on this, so I know the answer to this one, but you just kind of riff from it as I bring it up. True or false, Shilton? Whiskey is a great mixer, especially with politics.
Never ever. Right.
No?
No.
False.
False. I'll mention this. Talking about whiskey all over, you see a lot of people, right? I'm on a highball to start with.
Yeah.
You can mix a whiskey with anything. You buy a bottle, it's your whiskey, it's your money. You can always mix it with anything. Add a drop of water. All we can do, people working behind a brand, is educate, or guide people. That's the best you can do. Just guide them in the right direction. Adding
Absolutely.
a drop of water will open up. Adding a few ice cubes in it will freeze most of the flavors, so even not. But on a hot, sunny day, why not? Eyeballs. That's where I come from. That's how whiskey has been drunk.
Absolutely.
The two things never mix with your whiskey is politics and religion. That's my take on it. You'll never see me bring these topics up. Never ever in the bar.
But I think we've both benefited from that because, like I say, when you avoid those things and you connect over things that are mutual ground for you both, the enjoyment of the whiskey, the curiosity behind it, whatever it may be, you get to know the person, and there's no judgment then about politics or religion or the various other things that can divide us, right? And I know that we've spoken about that at length in the past, but it's kind of good to have your reaction, because one of the first things that you say is no.
Never ever. You'll never see me do that. I mean, we were talking. We have been sitting and talking about football, and then I remember somehow the cricket topic came up, and you did mention I don't understand, but we're still having a chat and having a laugh about cricket as well. But you can add that. You can add that, still have a good laugh and enjoy and have a good time with the friends. But that you cannot do the same. At least I cannot do the same with politics and religion, so I will never do that.
And I think it's true of most people. I mean, I think we can all learn to be a lot more accommodating about these much more sensitive subjects and learn to try and see things from each other's point of view. But usually when you're having a few drams and things like that, you tend to be less careful. And you tend to be much more outspoken and things. So you have to choose the subjects very carefully. I'm speaking about myself here before rather than anybody else. Absolutely, big guy. You're spot on. It's a good one to get out quite early, I think, there. Mike from Inverurie Whisky Shop. Good to see you in, Mike. Actually, I touched it and it disappeared. I've got you back again, Mike. Here you go. Shilton is one of the nicest and funniest brand ambassadors around Aquavitae. He's mentioning you as well. I agree. It's always a pleasure to see when Shilton's behind a table somewhere at a festival. Graham Young is saying, cheers, Aquavitae. So glad to see Shilton Almeida on here tonight. Thanks again, Shilton, for the beautiful M&H samples in Limburg. Fantastic. Of course, you were fielding us at Limburg as well this year. That's Graham Young, our Canadian pal, that travelled across with us this year. Amazing. Whiskey with Molly Ben is saying, no politics or religion. That's just rules for staying alive in Glasgow. Well, and of course, you moved to the UK in 2015, but you've since moved to just west of Glasgow, right? You've set up family there.
My bank after living 6 years in London, which was a bit too much for me. So they moved out and now in Clydebank. I love the peace here.
You love the peace?
Love the peace. I mean, it's very, a lot of people say why. And moving out from London, especially, Roy, I mean, you do these whiskey festivals, you travel. At some point, you just need to get home and need your peace, just quiet and not get out around, airport festivals and all that, and you just want to switch off for some time. I think
hotels,
this place does
tastings. Yeah, I understand. I've never done what you do, not in whiskey, but I've done the traveling thing, I've done the hotels thing, and I understand exactly what that is. So would you say that you're comfortable here now? Are you here for life, do you think, or?
In Scotland, yes. I mean, I'm happier. I mean, it could be somewhere else, but I love going back to London. I've got more friends and family down in London, but I think just for the weekend is more than enough for me at the moment.
Sure. London's an intense place. Let me ask you then, just very, very quickly, it's not politics or religion, but who will you be following for the Euro Championships that kick off tomorrow night?
I want to say it, but I'm not. Of course, I'm going to support Scotland, but I don't want to give you the answer I give the other day.
You can stay. You can stay. Jimmy Legs bought us a wee dram. He's saying his favourite dram is still peat with port. Oh, I think we're going to get a chance, Jimmy, for Shilton to share quite a few of his favourite drams with us tonight. And he was giving me a wee look under the hood before we went live tonight. So hopefully I'll be able to share some of what you're talking about along with him. Jimmy, thank you very much for your generous dram buddy. It's always brilliant to welcome in the Jimmy Leg. Herbin is saying, lovely sentiment. It's about people. The vPub is proof of that. And each of us could have a dram at home on our own. It's the people that make us tune in every week. Slancha. Herbin, thank you very, very much for that sentiment. I think that's true. And I think you make a great point as well, Herbin, that if you are just comfortable sitting at home on your own with a dram, it's just as valid and just as enjoyable for so many people. But this the virtual tools and technologies that we have at our hands today gives us the opportunity to connect. Kerbin and Jimmy Legg, thank you very much for your drams. Cheers, guys. Mike from Inverurie Whisky Shop is gifted 10 Aquavitae memberships tonight. Very generous of you, Mike. Thank you very, very much. And Daniel Williams is celebrating being a barfly for 41 months, saying crikey dikey video likey slant you. Yes, I'll hopefully ask a wee bit later if anybody's enjoying themselves to leave a wee like on the video. Always goes a long way. Okay, buddy, let's get on with this. Let's work out what's in the glass. What the industry drinks. Pour one is always about the Permashelf bottle. Permashelf is a phrase that I've come up with it's just an easy name to kind of that bottle that you will always want to have on hand, right? You understand the concept. Do you have any of those?
If it was, well, you did mention to me, try not to pick up your own brand, but if I had to pick up the own brand, I'll definitely pick up the classic.
Well, actually, what I said was the opposite of that. I said, I don't mind tonight you picking up your own brand. I don't mind it at all. But I understand that the implication of me saying those words is me saying, try not to lean on your own brand. But I know you better than that anyway. I shouldn't even need to say.
It makes me feel like I'm actually working, which I am not at the moment.
Yes.
Right. All time. You'll always find this on my shelf. I've been in love with it from the first time I've tried it. I think it's
Did
my
you
good
just put a
friend.
bottle on your microphone? Your sound has changed, I think.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you, but it's become a bit muffled. I wonder if you've put something on top of the mic or next to the mic. No?
No, just the whiskey.
Oh, okay, okay. We can still hear you. It's just, but it's not as clear as it was for me anyway. I don't know. Sorry, continue, please, buddy.
Now, first time I tried this is one of the shows. I think could be either Gary or Alan. Someone poured me the Dram, and I said, "Wow!" Ever since, whenever I see or the Glen Scotia stand, no matter even if they have the new release, I will always say, "Can I try this again?" Just have a dram of that. I'm in love with it. So always on my shelf, ever.
Always on the shelf here too. So I'm going to pour a wee dram of this alongside you, buddy. Glen Scotia Victoriana. Now, what's the ABV on yours? Which batch? I think I can tell by the branding.
54.2.
Yeah, yeah. So this is a cask strength bottle. So it kind of, and it's quite a powerfully flavored. It's very, very rich. It's quite potent. Arguably, this is also one that you could pick for something like the attention grabber almost. 54.2%. But I think it marks where you are in whiskey. Something big and powerful and potent like this. Is that what it is?
Yes. Also, something which for me, I've tried the range. Another whiskey which I was in love with, and from Glen Scotia, was the 2018 festival release, the Ruby Port one.
Yeah.
I think I bought like 6 of those whiskeys, of those bottles, and just drank it all. I finally managed to save one over here on the shelf, which I'm gonna pour at some point. But that was my favorite, and well, you don't find it anymore. So that is my go-to. Again, going back to that, Roy, you were talking about cask strength whiskeys, pouring it. It's, as I mentioned to you before as well, not something that I will usually sit down at and drink a lot or drink at home much. 2 reasons. Again, you go out for festivals and you drink. So when you get back, you really don't feel like drinking much.
Yes.
Secondly, I want to socialize. So I would rather go to the bar, on a car, for example, and just have a dram. So that's why this doesn't go down that fast over here at home. So it takes its own time, easy, but always there. There's always been refilled.
So as soon as it disappears, when that eventually does happen, it's the type of thing that you're going to make a mental note to pick up another bottle of.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, you did mention there that you showed it's a yellow bottle of your own whiskey. Can we just dwell on what that was you showed us there? Because you said when we meet on Monday night, Roy, you were at the Glasgow Whisky Club with me on Monday night. It was a fantastic wee night. You said, I'll bring you some samples, but you brought bottles. So what we're going to do, whichever one we open, the other bottles, what I've already suggested that I share it with the Dramface Writers Group. That's what we've done. But we'll pick one to open tonight. So that yellow labeled one is the classic.
The classic.
I happened to see that on sale recently. I didn't pick it up, but it was going for less than £35. I think it's normally about a 10 or more than that, right?
It's about 45-ish.
Yeah. I think so this is your entry-level product. But I think all M&H is all 46% and above. Was that right?
46 and above. The core range, the classic itself is our. Why will I pick that up as something which I will always have on the shelf? It's a very easy sipping whiskey. It's our introduction. If anybody will come up and say, "Can I just try one whiskey Shilton?" I will definitely pour that. It is not a big wow dram, but it's an easy sipper. It's a whiskey for everybody.
Yes.
It's a table whiskey, you can call it. Anything, morning breakfast whiskey or whatever you want to call it, but that's the easiest sipping whiskey, right?
Yes.
So for anybody, I will definitely pour that. It could be somebody who knows his whiskey or somebody who's very new to whiskey. That's a good start.
So this could also be a fit for the crowd pleaser category as well.
Yeah.
Now tell me, when you're sitting with your interestingly, when you talk about coming back from a festival and being a bit kind of whiskeyed out and wanting to take a break or whatever and maybe not reach for a whiskey, I opened last week talking about that very thing, the concept of whiskey fatigue. And you and I had a discussion about whiskey fatigue the week before. And I opened up last week's vPub mixing a highball. And when I talked about, I was speaking to a friend recently, and he talking about how he leans on a highball too. It was you I was talking about. So it's interesting you've got the highball on the go there as well.
Mhm.
So sorry, on you go. Just you were going to show us the highball, yeah? What are you mixing in that?
I've got the classic today
Okay, okay.
in this, and I found something which I'm trying for the first time. Normally, I will do soda, but it's a Mexican lime soda.
Oh, nice.
Brought it from the supermarket, so got a bit of a zestiness to it as well. It's a very refreshing, proper summer. So this is what's coming more in the house now when it's getting hot. Lovely. I'm enjoying it today.
Where are you picking that up?
From Asda.
Wow. Okay, that's
Yeah,
interesting. So the
yeah.
supermarket as well. Because
Supermarket as well. Easy.
one of the problems I've got when I travel, when I'm in Spain, soda's not that popular. A lot of bars don't even carry soda, right? It's just
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you're kind of looking out in supermarkets and things. But that's an interesting one, and it would save you a bit of time because you're not slicing your piece of citrus to put in your highball, right? You can just skip that.
Just being lazy, you can call it if you want to.
Yeah, being lazy. So I mean, I'm going to be interested to see, and I'm going to, as we go through tonight as well, to see if you're going to pick or discuss or talk about any Indian whiskies, because you're obviously from Goa yourself, and you specifically worked for John Distillers for 10 years. But you gifted me an Indian whiskey when we were at the club. Can I share this?
Of course you can.
I need people to see this.
It's for display. It's for display purpose only. I said.
Well, I think it'd be nice to talk about the concept of Indian whiskey and Indian consumption of whiskey. In India, the way that they approach whiskey, the culture around whiskey. Because if you go to the back of the Malt Whiskey Yearbook and you look at the top selling whiskies, they list it there every year. If I was to go through the top 10, I think it's 7 of them. 7 of the top 10 selling whiskies on the planet are Indian whiskies. Brands that we never hear or see here. McDowell's, Royal Stag, Officer's Choice, Imperial Blue, Blender's Pride, 8 p.m. All of these, Royal Challenge, Kakubin, that's actually a Japanese one, but that's all of those whiskies we would never tend to see them on the shelf. And let me show this. This is obviously a miniature, a gift from Shilton. Now, before anybody looks at this and thinks, oh, it's just a mini in a box. No, this is a Tetra Pak. This is literally a carton. This is a cardboard carton of whiskey. Now, as if to seal the deal, look at the ABV on it as well. It's better ABV than we tend to get in the supermarket whiskies, 42.8% ABV. Is this the way they're consuming whiskey in India, Shilton?
It's more of the economy segment, Roy. I've got a smaller version of that as well, by the way.
It comes in an even smaller pack.
Smaller pack as well.
Pocket sized.
It can easily get into your pocket. It's a whiskey tiffin.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to do it with this because I'd like to keep it. But Tetra Paks, if you pop those little folds on them, you can flat pack them. They go flat, so they literally could go in your pocket anyway. As an aside, yeah. Sorry, you were saying.
It's those brands. Most of them that you have mentioned are more of an economy segment. They have been taking a big part of the market share, but the market is changing in the recent years when people have been more traveling, exposed to more whiskeys, and the premium end, which is single malts, are getting bigger. But you're looking at about 1.4, 1.5 billion liters a year of consumption of whiskey in India. Okay.
Wow.
That particular brand you have there sells about 12 million cases, 9-liter cases a year. That's not even the highest. The highest was somewhere around 35 million liters a year. That's how much whiskey was being sold.
So 12 million. So 9 liters times 12 million. We're talking about 108 million bottles. Wow.
A year.
Yes, that's incredible. Just for context, you might remember the vPub last week. We talked about the top 10 best-selling whiskies, and the top best-selling malt whiskey that is Glenlivet with 19.8 million. So this is just the John Distiller's product called Original Choice,
And
selling 100.
most of the companies, Roy, they also have brands like this. Like one of the names you have picked up from the book just now is a whiskey made by Redigo Ketan, which are also the makers of Rampur.
Yes.
The same guy. This is from Paul John. There's the same company as well. So Amrut has got one brand as well in the market, but that is what sells more. There are many things that are, well, look at the price of that. That's about 60 rupees, I think, mentioned on it.
Yep. Yep. I don't know if the camera will want to focus on that, but it does. It says on the top, it says 60 rupees. Come on, if we can. There we go. 60 up the top here.
So it's about 50p.
50p.
for 180 ml.
Yeah, 180 milliliters. Wow. 18. So this is like there's 6 or 7 drams in this one carton for 50 pence. That's incredible.
That's big. There are many challenges up there. That's why I say it's an economy segment. There are different segments up there, but that is where it will start, which contributes more of the volumes in the country. Of course, there are premium brands. There's Scotch whiskey being imported as well, but also the biggest challenge is because there are not many imported brands there, not many Scotch whiskey easily available. And the reason behind that is the taxation.
Yep.
It goes through 150% tax. So 150% tax. Well, yeah.
That's the reason. That's the reason the Scotch whiskey industry, and I guess a lot of other global alcohol industries worldwide, are very, very keen for that to change, because they're always waiting on this market of India to explode and to be lucrative and everything. But it remains pretty robust in that direction. It was also interesting for you to explain to me why. Well, you told me what this was actually made of. It's not barley and it's not grain spirit, but also why it's at 42.8% ABV as well.
That's because of the taxes again, because the moment you hit 43% and above, you go in different slab of the taxes. That means you pay a lot more. So you will find a lot of 42.8% ABV. A lot of the brands doing it that it's below 43, yep. And that's a classic example of the bottle that you have as well from Indri as well. That's something to try and see the difference.
Yeah,
it's the same ABV as well, 42.8. So it's good to see that's what sells a lot.
Well, while we're on the topic, or while you tell us what it's actually made from as opposed to from grain, I'm going to pour. So the whiskey that I had in the glasses we opened tonight was Indri. I've talked about it lots and lots on the channel, and actually I used it at the Aquavita Blind Challenge in 2023, and it actually won the tasting that night at the World Whiskey. It was also the cheapest whiskey in the lineup. Not everyone in the room loved it, but enough people in the room loved this for it to win overnight. But what you gave me, Shilton, what you gave me as a wee gift is a bottle of Indri. Thank you very, very much. Interestingly, this is the exact same expression you gave me in a 750ml bottle. So there's a wee bit more whiskey in this one, but I'm going to open it tonight. But this is a special bottle because the normal Indri, non-chill filtered, no added colour, and 46% ABV. Fantastic presentation, right? But this one, 42.8% ABV, but interestingly, still says non-chill filtered and natural colour. Very interesting. So this is the domestic Indri product.
Yeah.
So you've brought this back from India to give to me.
I brought it back from India, yeah. Because I had seen your video as well, and when I saw this is what when I'm in India, I try this. I drink this in the bar. It is the best way to learn. That's something which I have realized, Roy, is whenever I go back for a holiday for 1 month or so in India, always go to the local pub, like the tavern, okay, where you see the local people, what they will drink, what is the trend, is something changed, rather than going into
high-end bar, which you can do it here as well. So what's the point, right?
Yeah.
So that's, the bartenders, the bar owners are so friendly. This is very close to my place as well, and they would just bring a bottle of that and keep it on the bar just when I am there, so that I drink this. So it's a very different market completely, and you see one of the very big brand, I would say, one step up from the economy segment. About in Goa, at least, it is about 1800, about 18 euros ish, 20
Yep.
euros as a bottle. You see a lot of black and white
Okay.
blended whiskies, and this black and white and VAT 69 as well,
Yep.
which I don't remember seeing one in the shelf here in the UK for the last time.
No, and it's interesting because black and white is in the list there. I don't know where it's sitting about. It's sitting about maybe 12, 13, 14, something like that. Black and white, but VAT 69 I don't think appears in that top 30. Black and white's maybe about position 14 there by the look of it. Obviously a Diageo brand that we very rarely see. It's very distinctive branding. It's the West Highland Terrier and the I can't remember, a Scotty, was it? I think it's the black and white wee dogs. So it's a very, very, we used to see it a lot years ago. So that is still very popular in India.
It's big in India. I mean, and the just because to save the taxes, the best way to do that is send it over in bulk and then you bottle it in India.
Which you can do with a blended Scotch.
Exactly.
You can't do that with a single malt Scotch.
Yes.
On that note, even a blended Scotch has even got, it's got malt in there, it's got grain in there as well, but we know that all Scotch whiskey is made from grain. Some Indian whiskies, the Indri that we're going to speak about tonight, certainly not. It's made from grain, it's made from barley. But so many of the Indian whiskies that I read out from the back of that malt whiskey yearbook is not made from grain, correct?
Yeah. It's, well, going back to how it started with the British origin, that's when the first whiskey drinking got in the country. And Edward Dyer, the guy who set up the first brewery, he set it up on purpose as for the British summer camp as a brewery when it was in the 18th century. And this was all done specially for the hot climate, for the guys to drink. Slowly, that turned out into a distillery. It's one of the oldest distillery in Asia today, Solon, which is owned by Old Monk. They make a rum as a Old Monk rum.
Okay.
But if you Google up and see the distillery and look at the stills, the images are like fascinating. The oldest distillery. That started off, but the biggest challenge is at that time you are trying to make whiskey or alcohol from barley where there's not enough barley for people to eat.
Yeah.
So that came back, and the reason, and that's when people started to move, because now you've just changed my poison. You introduced me to something nice and interesting, but you're saying that you can't make it. Well, that's when something came up as big time was molasses-based spirit, technically rum. But molasses spirit, you add a few drops of malt spirit in there and add flavors and colors, and it looks like a whiskey. After 5-6 good whiskeys, you're gonna say that's a good whiskey as well.
Okay, yeah, I get it.
At the end of the day, remember that it's all been mostly consumed with as a highball. Nobody sits with a Glencairn with those kind of whiskeys, right? So you're gonna mix it up with a Coke or a soda water. So it's not mainly about the flavors that you get from those whiskeys, but it's more about an alcohol beverage. That's the whole idea.
It's also making it from local ingredients to a price point as well, what the market demands, So making it from grain, it's going to be tricky because it's, I guess in India, it's the northern regions that grows the grain, right? So
yeah, but they have. I mean, the things have changed now. It's from I think 2017 when there's some law in where you can't use molasses spirit much. So it's grain-based spirit now, but it's not aged. Of course, you don't have to follow the rules there. So it's not aged, and again, still add flavors and colors. Another funny fact, I would say, if you look at the numbers that has been exported if you look at the export that is going to India, most of it is not even bottled. It's all going into the brands with this brands. if I mention about a few drops of malt whiskey in there, a young 3 years old whiskey, look at the consumption. You're talking about 1.4 billion, and see the contribution of how much you need of that malt spirit in there.
It's millions and millions of it, yeah. And also, I know that there's a lot of aspiration that happens as well, especially with foreign brands and Scotch brands in particular. I once heard it said to me that there is more Johnny Walker Red Label sold in India than Diageo actually make. It's true, right? Yeah.
Yep. It's some of the states. I mean, at least I don't know now how things are. Could be stricter, but still, I guess there is something going on like that. That you could always duplicate the excise permit and somebody bottle it. I mean, all I need is a bottle of Johnny
An
Walker,
empty bottle,
yep. Empty bottle which is going for a recycle. Just fill it up over there with something else, make it brand new and sell it. So those kind of things do actually happen still, I guess. But I don't know which part and where it is, but yeah.
It is, we should mention it is anecdotal, but I think it's pretty funny nonetheless. Pretty funny. Why not call it rum since that's what it is? Well, I think, Jimmy, if there was a market for rum, I'm sure they would be happy calling it rum, but I guess as Shilton's touched upon, the colonial hangover there, they got a taste for beer from grain, they got a taste for whiskey, so they had to figure out how to make their own local whiskey. Falsgraf is here, good to see you, buddy. Class is saying, to think that the cheapest Paul John I can get, bold, costs €41 for me is amazing. €41, that's about £38. Kind of similar here for the Paul John, decent price stuff. Major Nut is saying good night, Aquaviti and all, catching the rest on replay. Major Nut, thank you for joining us while you could tonight. I hope you're sitting down and comfortable watching us on the replay now, buddy. I hope you're resting and have rested well. Clicks to saying, so 46% is the Indian export strength. I guess that it is. It's certainly in the case of that Indri, they've sold it as an export product, where they're not under that 43% legislation in India, is 46%. Absolutely. Terrific stuff. So I've got the two Indris here. So this is the one I opened with. And this has got all the kind of rich, treacly, almost like a marzipan, nutty, sweet nuttiness to it as well. There's a wee bit of a distant kind of lactic note to this. It's a little bit funky, sweet, and the fruit in this is like dark, heavy fruit, like figs, booze-soaked figs, and that kind of thing. Very, very ripe fruit.
It's to keep it very simple, Roy. It's just a watered down version of that. So
this is the other one, but I've noticed that it's the neck pour, of course, and it's a different batch. Thank you, Piccadilly, for also giving us the batch numbers on the back as well, which is amazing transparency. But this is batch 10 from June 23, which is much newer than mine. The one that I bought in the UK is batch 3 from November 22, a wee bit earlier than it. But this is drier. Much easier to nose. The lower ABVs, you can stick your nose right in there, and there's a kind of acidity to this one too. Let's have a wee sip, see if it tastes watery. Oh no. Shilton, that's incredibly different. That's incredibly different. Okay, well, the batch is different here as well. Probably a lot to do with the batch difference here. But the spice is still there. The spice is still intact. The mouthfeel is still intact at 42.8%. That's quite incredible. It's a little bit lighter on the palate, maybe a little bit drier as well, a little bit more acidic, as I say. But still lots of spice, lots of wood spice. Is that genuine? There's still, as far as you know, not chill filtering.
Yep.
And I guess that's the domestic market. The temperature, you don't need to worry about.
There are only about 2 or 3 states, Roy, in India where you can sell whiskey above 46%, which is allowed to. Goa being one of that, so you can sell at 50-55% ABV. But most of the other markets, you're not allowed to, and that's why the brands have to water it down at below 43, basically. So it's just watered down version of it, and nothing different in it. So and you save a lot of money. Just to get it 42.8, you don't have to pay the taxes. That means the bottle. What's the price written on that at the back, Roy? Is it there should be a price on that bottle at the back.
Yes, 3150.
Yeah, so it's about 30. It's about 30 pounds a bottle.
So is that what's printed there? 3150.
Yep.
Manufacturer's price. Wow.
That's about £30 a bottle.
To be fair, when Indri was first launched here, we were picking it up at 40. I know it's gone up in price since, and it's dried up a little bit. It's harder to get a hold of these days, but it was about £40, and it was great drinking whiskey when it was at that price. I have to be honest with you here, and this is a strange thing. Let's go back to the stronger one. Much more ripe fruit, much more toffee, caramel, fudgy notes.
Right. I'm gonna join you with that because that's my whiskey number 2. Because
well, let's get on to it then. You're getting ahead. Pour 2, I've suggested. Your crowd pleaser that you're picking Indri.
I don't have a label on it. There's a reason for that as well. I tell you why. Because this bottle was given to me when they didn't launch it, and they said we were having a chat with the guy
before they launched it.
Before they launched it, before it came in the market. That's why he said, "I'm going to give you the bottle, but I'm going to take off the label." I'm so that's fine. So it's kind of very precious to me. So yeah, it's the same one, 46% ABV as well. The one that we get here in the UK.
I know you've got a lot of respect for the Piccadilly team and the company.
Yeah, it's great. It's great stuff, Roy, because of the liquid, and that's just something which I would say, especially the Trini. Okay, and it's very difficult to say that you pick up you find a whiskey and then you say, "Am I going to buy it?" And then you see the price. I'm like, "Yeah, definitely, maybe 2."
Yeah.
You don't come across many bottles like that today in the market, and when you see it, I'm like, yes.
Well, I've already said to you, I told you what happened at the blind tasting. If we talk about a crowd pleaser, there were 60 people in that room, and the whiskey that they voted to the top on that particular day was the Indri Trini. So it's a perfect pick as a crowd pleaser. But you've also got another Piccadilly bottle that is actually pips it as your favourite, right?
Oh, the cask friend version of that, yeah, the Dram.
Yeah.
Big ex-bourbon cask friend one, so it's lovely. There is something, since we are on the same topic, Roy, and we mentioned about you hardly find a whiskey and you say, "Oh, it's great, am I going to buy it?" There is one whiskey which always I see it on the shelf and I...
Oh, yes. That's the crowd pleaser.
Wow.
Can we just hold that up there for a wee second longer? If I've got mine, it's just out of reach, possibly.
I could do this if you want.
Oh yeah. This is not going to be around forever, buddy. This is not going to be around forever, which is probably why you're dual wielding there and you've got extra on the shelf. That's also a perfect crowd pleaser too.
Yeah.
And again, £36 for that whiskey. 6-year-old, 46% blend. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. In a recent blind tasting that I held on the channel, it actually beat Macallan 12 at a third of the price. Just an incredible thing, and something that's not going to be around forever. Another excellent, excellent pick. I have to say, on this wee bottle you've gifted me, I'm very glad to have it, because not only is it utterly unique, and I would say even different from the 46% one, but I'm loving it. And the lower ABV just kind of makes it a nice summer pour, I think.
Yeah.
As we were talking about. Love it. Absolutely love it.
It's one of those whiskeys which I will definitely use back in India when I'm on vacation, for example, and people are getting into whiskeys. I will, because of course I like the liquid as well, and I will say, try this. And I've introduced this to many friends back there who have been drinking whiskey or anything, and introduce them to that as a single malt entry, which is a great thing. And then I can always say, you know what, we have a 50% ABV from my own brand as well, but start here and then we can go there. It's a good introduction to whiskeys.
And I like the way that you think about whiskey. I like the way that you are obviously there to promote your own product, your own brand, and do what you do in your job. but give context and reach out and talk about other brands and talk about how your whiskey fits in to the wider landscape. And I think that that's a super positive attitude that just makes sense, because if you're going to sit and pretend that you're the only whiskey there, I think that you're tying one of your hands behind your back almost a little bit, you know. And I think it's also good if you're going to take whiskey recommendations or enthusiasm or information or education for someone, if it's somebody that's as informed as you are, I think it goes a long way. It makes it a lot better. And Hillswood is saying her crowd pleaser would be the Ardnamurchan cask strength. I think we're both fans of Ardnamurchan, aren't we, Shilton? Absolutely, yeah. Helen. It's a good call. Phil Jones is saying crowd pleaser can't go wrong with Kilkerran 12. I don't think we'll get through tonight without Shilton pulling out a Kilkerran on us either, Phil. So that's a bloody good call too. Ryan Sutherland is saying Shilton needs to get those blend taps off. Ryan Sutherland's a big supporter of blends. He's got his own product out there as well. Ryan's blending and releasing his Seven Sons blends right now as well. I noticed the most recent one. I was very, very tempted with it, Ryan, and maybe just go out and pick up a wee bottle. Brian Stormont is saying a nice summer pour. Imagine how much you'll enjoy if we actually get a summer. Brian, I'm right there with you, because it's not happened so far, has it, buddy? The Kilted Drammer's in. Gary, good to see you. The TBBSW is great. I often recommend when people want something that they can't get. Perfect people pleaser. I think it's a very good pick, and also think the Indri's a good pick too. Here's a bit of fun, since it's very on point right now with the football happening. Just going to drop this in here. Shilton, true or false? You were named after Peter Shilton, the England goalkeeper.
That's true.
It's true. It's not a common name, Shilton, and it's certainly not as a given name.
Shilton, and my second name is Almeida. Almeida is because it is Portuguese, Goa being a Portuguese colony, and Almeida. And Shilton is, so I basically have got two second names, if you have to ask me that.
Yes.
Shilton is, well, I was born in 82, and 80s at that time, my father being a big football fan, Peter Shilton was famous at that time. So I ended up with Shilton. Yep.
Amazing. That is amazing. So he was obviously a fan. I think my son's really into football and stats and things. He's a bit of a football statistician, right? And he was talking about Peter Shilton, and he said that Peter Shilton has got records the world over for the most appearances as a goalkeeper and the most appearances to play for any club in any country or any league whatsoever. He's got well over 1,000. I can't remember the stats he was telling me, but so, Peter Shilton was famous the world over, right? It's not just in England, absolutely.
So a lot of people always tell me when football comes up that you should be supporting England or Leicester, and I don't support them either.
No, but what did your dad support, I wonder?
No, I don't know. Well, I lost my dad at a very young age as well. I was only 9 years old, so okay, it was very.
Wow.
All I could realize was, because as I was growing and listening to this about where it's coming from, and I could see magazines all were like Peter Shilton on the front page everywhere. It's like, okay, so I know where this is coming from.
So if you don't know which club or country he was supporting, he was certainly a Peter Shilton fan. We can know that. The name is
that's for sure.
Right, let's put the wheels on the third dram, buddy. I know I'm pushing you through these as you still get your Indri in a glass here. But now we're interested. You've got the things that you're pouring to make your highballs. You've got the crowd pleasers, and you've got the Permashelf bottles that you've shared with us. But if Shilton's going to treat himself, a really self-indulgent, the Shilton pour, the Decadent Pour, what is it going to be?
It's funny because many people might not agree. Some people might like it. Some people might not on this one. But for me, whenever I'm at home, I pour this one.
There we go.
8 years old port cask.
Well, let you hold that up. Let the camera focus if it can. What is that? Which Kilkerran is it?
It's a 8 years old port cask, the one that they released along with the sherry.
So that was, I think, early 2022, was it?
Yeah, 22. It's definitely not 23, 22.
22. So, because you gave me a wee tip off in advance, But I think it was Phil Jones talked about Coquerin. He mentioned the Coquerin 12. But Jimmy Legg's been talking about Shilton enjoying a bit of port cask, specifically with Pete, I think Jimmy was talking about. So I've got that very same bottle to share with you as well. Yeah. Fantastic. Let's pour a wee tablespoon of that to share.
I think I've got more Coquerins on the shelf, Roy. If you have tried to look at the back, there are a few, especially the 8 years old, the cask strength ones.
Buddy, you and I have something else in common. I think I said to you, I couldn't find the port cask scrabbling around just before we went live today because I've got so many Coquerins that I had to dig through. Listen, it's first world problems, right? It's a fantastic position to be in. It's a wonderful, wonderful malt whiskey. It's fantastic. It's just getting more interesting all the time. The port cask one was never one I particularly connected with. I think it's a good whiskey. I think the sherry cask that it came out with as well, depending on your mood, it might nudge it ahead of the sherry, and other times the sherry would nudge it. But the one that I would have grabbed and I put it back, it didn't come out at the same time. It's a more recent release. This is kind of more up my street. Would be my pick. Would be bourbon cask. But this is the first time I've put this in a glass in a long time. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. It's like I forgot how.
I'll tell you my experience with this, Roy. I tried it for the first time and I knew it was out. And when it is out, you normally try to see it in a whiskey bar so that you can try it. I was down in London in Melody Bar, and was that much left in the whiskey. And I tried it for the first time, and I went straight away to the guy and said, "Can I buy what's left?" He said, "Shilton, no, that's the only bottle I have." I said, "Come on, please." And I was doing a tasting there. I mean, I can do a soft cheese. I can pay for it. I'm buying it. He said, "No, that's the only one I have, and I'm not getting anything soon." It's okay, fine. By the end of the evening, the guy just came to me and he said, "That's yours."
He just
gave
it.
Me that. I was like in tears. I'm like, "Thank you so much. That means a lot to me." Like, you normally don't do that, but I want the bottle right now, whatever is there. And then I managed to find another bottle of that. I have another one as well on the shelf somewhere hiding.
Ben Whiskey with Molly saying I'd kill to get another bottle of that Coquerin port cask. It's about 150 to 200 on the market now. Hellswood is saying Decadent Pour, she'd go for an infrequent flyers 13-year-old PX single cask Craigellachie. Oh, she's a big Craigellachie fan. Sumptuous, rich, heaven in a glass. And Jeff Whiskey is saying there it is, the best whiskey in the world, Aquavite Coquerin port cask. A lot of fans for it. Rob Smith is saying, love that bottle. And Jimmy Legg is saying, suddenly this Shilton guy seems like a man who makes a lot of sense and maybe could be my best friend. Spend a wee bit of time in his company and he gives you that impression in real life as well, Jimmy. He really does. This is so rich and potent. I forgot just how intense this whiskey was. It's been a long time.
This is one of those whiskeys, Roy, which I have a term for it, which I'm probably have heard it. This is my whiskey romance. You just hold on to that glass. It's instead of sipping it, you just start nosing it and loving and appreciating the flavor. This is a whiskey romance in the glass straight away.
And I bet you it does very well with a wee bit of water in it too, just to open things up. And it's very dense, isn't it? Quite incredible. I'm glad that I'm getting a wee chance to go back in. I think it's been quite more than a year probably since I've had a sip of this. This is why it's good to do these things.
This is what I do when at home, just want to treat myself, just sit down with that. When I'm out, especially in whiskey festivals or any places, and I sometimes just wish that I find something on the shelf. And if I'm not at home, then that will be my whiskey, the Port Askaig 100 proof.
Oh, is this another Shilton self-indulgent thing? Yeah. Big fans. We're both big fans. They've upgraded. We were talking about this before we went live.
They've changed the label.
100 proof you've got?
100 proof, yeah.
So the 100 proof, I believe they've replaced now with this, which is their cask strength. I mean, it's the ABV is almost the same. This is 59.4. The 100 proof that you've got would be 57.1. Cask strength. Can't remember how much this cost me now.
That's 57.1. Yeah.
Sorry, how much? 57.1, yeah.
57.1, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, 100 proof. It's just remarkable. I mean, we believe it to be Kalila, which is only a good thing, right? Terrific whiskey. So that's you getting 2 for the crowd pleaser, 2 for the Decadent Pour, and 2 actually for the Permashelf.
The good thing, there's a good and a bad thing here. There are chances of me finding it on the bar or a whiskey festival or try it anytime. Good luck.
Yes.
This will be me sitting at home enjoying it. So the 2 different reasons for it.
And as Ben says, having to pay, 4 times the price that it probably was retailed at originally to try and get it on the secondary market, which is always a shame.
Yeah.
Okay. Decadent Pour, then we're going with occasionally the Port Askaig, 100 proof cast strength, but more often than not, you're reaching for our beloved Kilkerran Port Cask.
That's also because there's not much left out there, so you need to go slow on it.
So it is really self-indulgent, absolutely. And there is a sense of being really decadent too. I think for me, it's like really rich plum and jam and that kind of note. I think there is a wee bit of kind of savoury smoke on this too, but it's that drying finish that it has. It's almost like every sip that you have, you're immediately wanting to go back in for another wee hit, right?
You can get some tobacco as well.
Yeah. Sweet tobacco, aromatic tobacco, Fantastic. Really good. All right. I've got another wee true or false for you. Maybe not as cheerful as the last one. What do you think about this statement? True or false, 2024, the year that we're in, will be a tough year for whiskey.
Oh.
Sorry to blindside you, but I'm curious.
No. It depends on the take of it, Roy. So I wouldn't say it will be a bad year for anything, because if we survive 2 years of COVID, selling the most number of whiskies or the sales hitting the roof in COVID times,
yes,
then I think we can. It could be certain markets, and I'm talking this from the sales point of view where we do. There are some markets which, for various reasons, economic reasons, the sales are not happening. People are not buying expensive whiskies, so that is different. But at the other side, there are some markets which are performing. Okay, so whiskey is something that will be there. If that's a question about, is it about performance in the sales wise, then I don't see that going down. No.
Do you think it's unfair because we are comparing it to the COVID years, which were exceptional peaks? And what we should really be doing is going back to like the 2018s and things like that and comparing the volume demand.
If there was any concern during COVID, it was the sales. And I'm sure pretty much a lot of brands have been thinking the same, that, oh, what are we going to do? How are we going to survive these 2 years? But if you look at it, it was fantastic. The sales were great. It was working. And I'm happy that in that question, in the true or false, you said whiskey, because if there are people not buying expensive whiskeys, they're going to settle down with a cheap whiskey. So whiskey is not being damaged. It's going to be maybe blended whiskeys, which are cheaper. People can't afford to buy something more than 50 euros. So less than 50, doesn't matter, as long as I need a whiskey. So that's going to be the question. What am I going to drink? I might change my lineup. I might change my whiskey at home or to drink for consumption, but it's going to change the factor. So the volumes are always going to be there. People are not going to stop drinking whiskey and start drinking some other spirit. No.
I think that's true. I think you make a good point there. I think it's, if you love whiskey, you might enjoy changing lane from time to time to try other things, but we'll often switch back to whiskey because I don't think it has any peers, any direct peers or substitutes, right? But what you're talking about is affordability. People are more likely just to adjust what they're going to target rather than kind of cut it out altogether. And I think what we've seen in recent years is the more inexpensive whiskies, the budget whiskies, the entry-level whiskies being super strong and performing very, very well. The collectible stuff, the high-end stuff, the premium stuff has been doing okay too. but it's the stuff in between that's probably been challenged. And I think the reason for that is because over COVID in the recent years, we over accumulated so much of that stuff that we can afford to take the foot off a little bit when we're nervous about income.
Yeah.
It's
something to do. I mean, Roy, if you look at the numbers itself, the consumption, the sales overall globally, the biggest contribution is coming from blended whiskies. So that's not going to change. The question is, are we going to buy expensive whiskies because of any challenges that we are facing? Yes. Maybe we will not buy expensive whiskies. Maybe that's going to damage it. But end of the day, I'm going to try some other options for me, something cheaper. And trust me, there are some fantastic below 50 whiskies around.
I know.
If you had to pick it up, you only have to. The thing is, that's when people have to change. I always say this when I come across people and they are brand loyals, and I always say there is a difference between drinking a label and a whiskey.
Oh yeah.
So you only have to start thinking out of the box and try something else. And definitely, I'm not picking up any brands, but just random. We just picked up something which is at 30 euros, 30 pound a bottle, for example. There are not many people who are aware of it at all. So why not try it? So that's going to happen now. So there are a lot of people who are going to benefit it as well. So
exactly. One of the things that we say on the vPub and we say around this channel generally is to stay promiscuous, to stay open-minded, to stay adaptable and keep looking. If we're truly into the flavour and the enjoyment of whiskey, then we should be able to look past any specific brand or style or profile even and keep exploring and keep enjoying the flavour. Absolutely. Glad to see that you're confident about the future, because I know that for a lot of us, for the people that hang around the vPub and things, we're still very engaged and we're still buying whiskey. But a lot of us have been a lot more choosy. We're probably spending less, or if we are spending the same, we're certainly buying less, and we're picking things much more carefully in recent times. Whiskey with Molly saying is that there's so much whiskey out there, Aquavita. If one thing moves out of our price range, there are another 4 to replace it. I think that's your point exactly, buddy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Phil Jones is saying, I'm actually quite fortunate in that I've been able to get bottles of Coquerin 12 plus Springbank 10 and 15 at local specialist shop. And I think, Phil, one of the things that we've seen, it's still really super tough for people to get their Coquerins and their Springbanks, their Longrows, their Hazelburns, whatever it may be, but it's starting to get a wee bit easier. It's starting to alleviate a little bit as there's less pressure, certainly on the core range stuff. I'm glad you're able to get hold of it, Phil. And our pal Reb Mordecai is saying, could you please ask Shilton if he's tried any other Israeli whiskies? Outside M&H, have you tried any others?
I did try one, but again, there are not many around. And the biggest challenge is because you don't find many around over here in Europe across easily.
Well, here's one that was left for me. I've managed to get this quite dusty, Rip. This is I don't know if you've heard of these guys.
I have heard of it. Yes, that is one of the things I've mentioned to the guys at the distillery is next time I'm coming down, we're gonna sit down and do at least 4 different distilleries and try the whiskies at the distillery. Nothing to do with not trying it. The only reason is that you don't see that, Roy. You can't get a bottle of it around here, not only in the UK but across Europe. It's not easy to find it.
Absolutely. The only other ones that I've had have been given to me from a Golani and 2 Yerushalmis, has both been from Reb Mordecai. It's not the type of thing that we would see on the shelf easily.
I've tried the Golani before as well, and it has always one distillery, especially when there's something coming from a different country, Israel being the first distillery coming out, starting with the whiskey. There are other distilleries, and there is a great future. So there will be more coming over as well. There are small distilleries today, but they are growing in the market and coming out. So that's going to happen. So it's good. I mean, even pick up any country, there's always a first, and then you see 4 or 5 other distilleries coming up.
It's incredible to see all the local explosions in malt production, or not necessarily even malt, but local whiskey production. I think that probably segues us quite nicely into our VIP pour, doesn't it? Does it? Have I misjudged? So this is the type of thing that you might be excited to pour for a special guest. Take it away.
I had to.
Yes,
That's M&H Apex Dead Sea one.
So you brought me a sample of this. Thank you very much.
Yes, that's the one. Yeah, yeah.
It's a bit cheeky of you, Shilton, but I'll be very, very gracious and I'll say thank you. I will be able to return the favour in the future to you, my friend. When you said samples, I didn't realise how generous the sample would be. But this is the first time that I'll have tried this. So tell us about it. Tell us about what this one is as I open this.
That's a whiskey we have a series called an Apex. So you've seen the classic. We have the Elements, which is in the core range. This is the Apex series. Apex are small batches that we do. Something that we do with the Apex is try different stuff from different casks to different locations. So as a country, you get about 5 different climate zones. You get 5 different climate zones, and so the late Dr. Jimson came up and helped us set up the distillery. So when he first visited, he said, "Look at this country; it's a playground. Play with it." So we started maturing whiskies in different locations.
Okay.
Starting with the Jerusalem Mountains, to the Sea of Galilee, to the desert, and the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea was the first project that was ready and launched. We're talking about, in Tel Aviv, where we are based, we're talking about 11% angel share.
11%?
11% per year as an angel share in Tel Aviv at the distillery. Here at the Dead Sea, where this is matured, we are talking about 25% angel share.
Oh my goodness.
So this liquid in here is matured only for about 18 months at the Dead Sea, and we have to move the cask back to Tel Aviv, because if we leave it for 3 years,
it's gone.
Yep. The different cask types here, 70% of the whiskey in that is ex-bourbon cask, and then there is STR, about 20% of STR, and a small amount of virgin oak or red wine that changes with every batch. But ex-bourbon and STR dominating the liquid.
And the ABV is quite handsome as well on it, isn't it? 56.2. This one is This particular one is batch 10. And the Dead Sea, if I remember my school education, is one of the lowest altitude spots on the planet, right?
It's the lowest point on Earth. It's minus 430 below sea level. It's about 50 degrees Celsius, very dry. And because it is the lowest point on Earth, it has got a lot of air pressure. When I say air pressure, there's more air pressure inside the cask as well. So that means it forces the spirit into the wood and extracts a lot more. So if I say, the maturation or extraction rate in Tel Aviv is fast, Dead Sea will be even faster.
This is very, 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 again, it's quite an intense, you seem to have a thing for quite intense, dense, richly flavored things, I think. This is very intense. A lot of wood spice here, a lot of cedar wood. There's a brightness, there's a fruit brightness to it, like green fruit, gooseberry type thing, a gooseberry type note, maybe sweet apples. But the spice, the wood spice is prevalent.
The wood spice comes in mainly from the STR cask as well.
STR, yeah.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So what age are we sipping here?
3 to 4 years. The one you have, they're all different batches, but it's mentioned on the label, Roy. Maybe 4 years, distilled and bottled. It's a different batch than the one you have than mine.
June 2018, July 2021. This is 3 years and 1 month. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Not a chance. Not a chance. A lot like the southern states in the US. A lot like maybe Taiwanese whiskey. In fact, a lot. This is very, very similar topics to what you would have been talking about back at Paul John. This kind of super intense maturation where you're losing so much water from the liquid. You know, you're not losing so much alcohol, but you're losing so much water from it, and that's what's reducing. And that when that happens, you're getting so much concentration of flavor in the cask, right? And that
you get a lot more. I mean, the extraction rate from the wood is so high that also the biggest challenge is you cannot keep it for a long time in the cask for two reasons. One is of course you lose a lot of whiskey, but also at a certain point the wood has given up on all the flavors, and that's when it tends to be more oaky and woody. As a brand, do you really want to keep it in the core range is a question, you know. So do you want to keep it nice and fruity, you know, approachable for people, or you want to get the wood dominating? So the balance on getting a whiskey done, the balance is quite important for brands.
Wow. That's
a lot of people do blind tastings with this one. That's why I wanted to do it as a VIP pour, as in put it up in a blind tasting and let people not guess it. This works out fantastic.
I think if I was sipping this blind, now of course I know what I'm sipping now, but if I was sipping this blind, I think I'm quite confident that I would pick up that it's not Scotch that I'm sipping, but I don't think there's any way that I would place it at 3 years old. Not a chance.
No, I've been told when I did some blind tastings before with this one, and people always come up and say this reminds me of an 18 years old something, 21 years old something. Not, I mean, some brand. It's not about comparing it, but the intensity of the flavors in that young whiskey is so big. It's rich on the flavors.
It really is. There's a lot of spice here. Very, very spiced. I'm getting a lot of kind of cinnamon and cooking spices coming through, cardamom, that kind of thing. Quite aromatic. But it is quite very, very spiced liquid.
Mm-hmm.
Is this expensive, Shilton? Is it an expensive pour?
This will be somewhere just above 100, 110, 120.
Pounds, euros?
Pounds, yeah.
Wow, okay.
Could be if you might get it below 100 as well in the UK sometime, but just about 100-ish.
Wow, I feel even more privileged for you to have given me such a generous sample. Let's say.
I know you'll be sharing it with, you know, and that's why.
I absolutely will. I'll find lots of ways to share that. And I
do you still want to share it now after trying it?
Well, honestly, that's a funny thing. I think the more that you enjoy a whiskey, it's weird, isn't it? The more you want to share it generally. I know there are some things like maybe that Decadent Pour cask for you. You love that now, but most people understand you're going to keep that for yourself, right? That's why it's the Decadent self-indulgent pour, right? But things like this, I think the enjoyment is to tease out more discussion from it. So you share, and hopefully you'll get an opportunity to share it blind with people, and then just get the reaction from it. People that like you have, where people are coming and suggesting that it's much older than it actually is.
Mm-hmm. And the whole story about how it all started as well, Roy, because when we started maturing the whiskey at the Dead Sea, we don't have a warehouse there. So there's no place we could mature it. All we did was approach the hotel. Now we have changed, but before the whiskey that you're drinking today is from that place. We went to the hotel and we asked them, do you have any space that we can leave some cask, about 20 casks there to mature? And the hotel offered us, the only space that I can give you is a rooftop.
Wow.
Right? So we had to build a cage at the rooftop, leave about 20 casks over there, and let it mature. Right out in the sun, exposed straight away. There's no shed, nothing. Now we have changed to a different location. So when I was there for the first time, it was still at the hotel. And trust me, trying a cask sample sitting up over there is not the best of the ideas in that hot sun.
Yeah.
Straight away, 60% ABV, 65% ABV. It's great, but
that's a lot different from the west coast of Scotland sipping whiskey. And I think when you talk about 20 casks, I mean, the logistics involved in that, the distance, the remoteness, the complexities of that maturation, the fact that it's only 20 casks and it's very, very scarce. It's an oddball project in itself. Quite interesting that it was inspired by Jim Swan coming across and saying, play with your environment. Absolutely. Red Mordecai saying, Sorry, go ahead, Shilton.
No, I was just saying we just experiment in such a way that every time we send a cask to the Dead Sea, we also fill a sister cask at the same time in Tel Aviv to see the difference. We stop as well. Some of the whiskies are matured for the first 18 months at the Dead Sea. Some of them are matured in Tel Aviv and then go to the Dead Sea. So keep playing around and see what happens.
Fantastic. That makes sense. So obviously back in Tel Aviv, the maturation can be a lot more controlled and a lot slower. Yeah. Reb is saying that there's a strong smell of salty sulfur at the Dead Sea. Are you picking up any of that? No. I mean, there's a kind of salty sulfur. No. Maybe a wee bit of salinity, but not much. I would say it's more towards a kind of savory note rather than sulfury.
There's a funny side to this. When I was pouring it recently in one of the festivals, when I mentioned Dead Sea, the guy came to me and said, if I drink this whiskey, will I be floating?
Yes.
And I said to him, it all depends on how much you drink, my friend.
Exactly. If you drink enough of it, probably, yeah. Falsgraf is saying €71 in my market Aquavita for the Apex. Not a bad price for a good one. Roasted oak, dark chocolate, red fruits, and bergamot or bergamot. Sounds great. Dorpass Whiskey Tim is saying, put some in the blood tub. Yeah. It's not a bad idea, Tim, actually, but I'll talk to Shilton about that first. Ian Bruce is saying, are you sure it was just angels enjoying their share? Absolutely, 25%.
If you see my first 3 photos from it, anybody on social media, with the Valinch and the cask, trust me. From my first trip, I came back with a name, and the guys at the distillery started calling me as the whiskey sucker.
Is that because the levels are so low?
Yep.
Yeah.
So because it is in the cage, there's the funny side is all we went was with the Valinch and some glasses to try the samples. Because it is in the cage and you can't put the Valinch in, so the best option was to go up and try to put it to the hole of the cage. But it was just barely touching the liquid, so there wasn't enough to drag in. So I said, hold on a minute. I can see that it is touching. Let me try to suck it out.
And it works.
It worked. It worked. So the next day, it wasn't good for me because I was filling it all straight away with all the fumes in me.
Well, by that time, it's time to get these casks back to Tel Aviv. They've almost disappeared. Yep. Ian Bruce is saying, sorry, I did pick that up, Ian. Thanks for the comment. And Helen is saying, can you give a birthday call out to Peter Lee, Phil Jones for this weekend, and Highland Hamish for today? Oh my goodness, that's 3 birthdays. Helen, you're on it tonight. I can't believe it's Peter Lee's birthday, and I didn't know. My goodness. So Peter Lee has got a birthday this weekend. Phil Jones, who's in tonight, he's got a birthday. And Highland Hamish, our pal from Inverness as well. Let's raise a glass, especially to our pal Peter Lee. I saw you on Monday night. You didn't crack a light that your birthday was coming up, big guy. Fantastic. Many happy returns this weekend. To Phil Jones, who's in tonight, raise a glass. Hope you have a fantastic one, Phil. And Highland Hamish up in the Highlands. Cheers to you all. Happy birthday. Many happy returns, everyone.
Happy birthday.
June birthdays all round. I hope the weather clears up for you all as well. Brian Caballis is saying here in Australia, accelerated maturation, proof rise instead of proof drop. Exactly same in the hot states in the US as well. I don't know if I like it better in Scotland where, yes, we lose ABV. The ABV drops, but we tend to keep liquid, right? It's a much slower, gradual thing. Lots and lots of happy birthday wishes coming in for everyone. Fantastic stuff. Great stuff to Phil, to Peter, and to Hamish. Great stuff. Here's a big thing. I'm going to just put this up here, Shilton, and see how you field this thing, because it was a mic drop moment for me when you told me this. I've checked with you on Monday night if it was okay to share this, but true or false, you were once told that you were most suited to selling Indian whiskey.
True.
I don't know how to react to this. I don't know whether to be shocked or laugh. I just don't know.
I didn't know how to react to that when it was said as well. So it was kind of framed in such a way that someone said, I can't see you working for any other brand besides Indian Whisky. Okay.
It's did they know you? Did they know you?
Yeah.
Wow.
From the industry as well. So that was funny. But for me, the thing is, the one thing I have learned when you've been doing this job for so many years now and traveling different parts of the world, you need to be kind of strong enough, Roy, to face this, right? So, and I have heard of come across the weirdest comments. I'm going back in 2015 when I was new to the country, just moved in from India, and I was on the road knocking every door. So I have heard a lot of things before as well. So when this came up, I'm like, okay, that's interesting. This sounds like a nice challenge. But at the same time, don't get carried away, Shilton. Be kind of smart and take your call. Don't just try to. End of the day, you would only need to prove something to yourself, right? So you don't have to prove something to anybody else. But it was said, and I was like laughing at the same time, like, okay.
What else can you do?
Nothing. Laugh.
And here you are today, 2 years in a company, not selling Indian whiskey. And when I talk to you, anytime I've been in your company, the way that you evangelize about Scotch whiskey, Irish whiskey, English whiskey, American whiskey, it doesn't, the qualifier, the descriptor doesn't mean anything in your conversations. The fact that it's whiskey.
So I mean, I'm first of all, I'm a whiskey lover, right? That's the bottom line. That is what it is. That will never change in the industry, not in the industry, working, not working. That is never going to change. So that will always be there. So I enjoy my whiskeys. I mean, if you had to see my stuff over here, there are whiskeys from everywhere, not only Scotch or not only world whiskeys. So there are whiskeys from everywhere around. Just keep trying. But I don't know what's the idea behind it, but someone just mentioning that was like, great.
I think, Shilton, that it's probably you've been toughened up along the way, coming over to the UK, to Europe, to sell Indian whiskey when at that time, malt whiskies, Scottish malt whiskies, Irish malt whiskies, things like that were blossoming and growing very, very strong. I know how many shops I went into. I know how many collections I saw. I know Paul John was in everybody's lips. And I know how that happened in Europe. That happened because of you. The fact that Paul John was in Goa and you're from Goa, that's incidental. Absolutely incidental. We listened to you because you loved whiskey and we understood that.
Funny enough, Roy, if you ever be to any of the masterclass or even whiskey festivals, there is not a single day or a single tasting session that I've not mentioned any other whiskey. There's always, and it's not on purpose, it just comes out. I might just say, have you tried Kiloman? That so-and-so, that particular one from them. 2018 Lugom is fantastic. So it just comes out. Or any other whiskey. Could be Lindo's, could be Rassay. It's just about the love for the whiskey and it comes out. And I don't think that will never change. That will never change. That is always there.
I think it's very, very short-sighted and very old-fashioned and stuffy when you do come across brands where you're not permitted to talk about context and other whiskies and other brands and things. What you're mentioning there, the ability to stand in a tasting and talk about other brands and other whiskies and things, is just genuine and it just makes sense in the context of where you operate. And I think it's the culture. Most of the people that are doing that job know their product and are passionate about it. And the only way they can know their product is to be enjoying those other whiskies too.
There are so many. There's so many. We have a whiskey in the core range, which is the Element Sherry. It's a nice balanced sherry whiskey, and it's not a big sherry bomb. And whenever I talk about it, I always say, try this. It's a balanced sherry. It's a good one as an introduction to the sherry whiskies. If you love this style, then go ahead and try some Glendronachs or Glenallachs. But I will mention other brands as well. I will recommend. My whiskey is not a big sherry bomb. It's not meant to be. It's a balanced sherry. But there are other whiskies out there, but that's your journey to start. Peated whiskey, for example. Before going to a big Lafroig or a lager, I would say try the Elements Peated, which is lightly peated. And then try the big peaty whiskies. So it's always there.
Yeah. Or get to love the big peaty whiskies and then try the Elements Peated in order to detect a bit more subtle peat and things and balance. And yeah, it's all got its place. Ian Bruce is saying the Whippersnapper distillery had a cask strength of 45% after watering down to go into cask. Well, a lot of times, Ian, especially in Scotland, you know, you can end up with low 40s as a cask strength as well. That's an interesting one. I've not even heard of the Whippersnapper distillery. Jimmy Legg is saying because of his naturally curly hair, that's why. That's probably why what it is. Incredible, right? Phil Jones is saying 14-year-old Kalila from Signatory Vintage X Bourbon, bottle 95 of 259, 57.1 APV. So that's you into the Kalila, the 100 proof one as well from Signatory. Whiskey with Molly Bennett saying Shilton's enthusiasm would make him my first choice if I ever owned a whiskey brand. His knowledge and personality make him perfect for the job. I think his warmth and the human quality with the man as well, Ben, you enjoy that too. I know you do. Absolutely. It would be everything else is incidental once it's that. Falsgraf Klaus is saying, and here I was at the start of this stream finding it really great that an Indian living in Scotland was an ambassador for an Israeli whiskey. Not racist enough, I am. It's absolutely true. You're a product of international whiskey. I go in, living in Clydebank, selling whiskey from Israel.
The one thing I will never get perfect is an accent.
Yes, that's right. And there's no need for it either. There's no need for it, buddy. Danny Heavington is saying there's an Indian Asian guy who owns the Royal Hotel in Tain with a massive whiskey collection behind the bar. He's very passionate about whiskey and knows a damn sight more than this Scot. He's referring to himself, obviously, Danny Heavington as well. That's right. And I think the most amazing thing is that I remember when I first started the channel, people talked to me about, oh no, it's good that you're a Scottish guy talking about Scotch whiskey. And I was like, no, I don't want to only talk about Scottish whiskey. I want to talk about all whiskey. And the fact that I'm Scottish is absolutely incidental. Absolutely incidental. Sachin is saying, have to go to bed now. Really enjoyed it, buddy. Thanks you for staying this late. And Ian Bruce is saying, we'll still get fools who only drink Scotch or Irish or bourbon, but their ignorance is sheltering them from the world of flavours. Whiskey should be the key to opening doors. Absolutely. Amen to that. Okay, buddy. One true or false, and then we're going to finish with your attention grabber, okay?
Right.
True or false? Despite everything that we've just said, Scotch is still the best whiskey.
The best whiskey is the one which is in my glass, Roy.
Really?
Yes, of course. It's always the one which is in your glass. It's always. Doesn't matter where. For me, it doesn't matter where. So, do they make good whiskies? Yes, definitely. It's the best whiskies I've tried so far is Scotch. Yes, definitely. But there is also a big wide range that you can explore. The only thing is that there is more variety. So it is true in a way because there is more variation of different flavors and styles because there are many distilleries and many styles. So in a way it is true, but it is not the only, okay, because there is other ones as well. So I hope this makes sense of what I'm saying, but this is because there is a wider category. If you want something peated, of course there's peated, sherry peated, port peated, unpeated, whatever you want to. So you don't find that if you put Scotch in one category and all the whiskies in one more, you don't find that everywhere. So for that, yes, I will settle with that.
I would have to say I agree with you. And I think that as the days tick by, it's becoming more and more complex. The variety that we are offered today, I mean, if we just look at the milk and honey products that you're making, the different maturation and everything, peated and unpeated, every single producer today at a very small scale is doing very similar things. Huge variety from smaller stocks. That used to be one of the strengths to the Scotch whisky playbook, you know, the variety that we had. But the truth is that as the days tick by, the variety and the quality and the understanding of how to produce very good whiskey and play to your natural environment wherever you're located is becoming more and more understood. by the producers and therefore by the market as well. I think you're absolutely spot on. I think Scotch can only be Scotch. Nothing else can be Scotch, I guess, because of where we are, the history, the depth of it. But to say that it's the best,
we cannot, as a guy, as a person who works with world whiskey, even the brands coming up, it's never about comparing it. It's about doing this whiskey in the same way. For example, going back to India and Israel, we don't have to follow the rules, but we do. And why? Is because what will happen if we make the whiskey in the same way how they do it in Scotland, but with our climate, our ingredients? How will it be different? And then get 2 glasses and say, this is done in Scotland, this is done in Tel Aviv, and see the difference. And that's the story behind it. It's nothing to compare. I don't know if there are some brands who are comparing and saying it, but I at least don't do that. So for me, it is, whiskey is something new. It's a school day every day, right?
Yep.
If there is somebody who says I know 100% out of whiskey, that's when I say I'm off. I can't be talking to you, dude. You know everything. So, but there is something that you learn every day. There are new distilleries coming, so fantastic stuff. Very exciting to see. There are old distilleries, some big boys who are coming with new innovative ideas as well. So, as a distillery, which is new for us as well, you need to up your game as well, right? We try different whiskeys. We do something in a pomegranate wine cask, cognac cask, rum cask. Just play around, have fun with the whiskeys. And I'm sure a lot of other distilleries do it as well. If you have just 4 whiskeys and you be like that, then there's somebody who's going to beat you in your game. So
absolutely,
you have to explore and keep it up.
I think some of the most, and actually one of the vPubs before I finish and break for the summer break, it'll be the best so far of this year. And one of the whiskies I'm going to talk about is frighteningly good, and it's incidentally not a Scotch whiskey. And there's a good chance that between then and now, when I select the whiskies that I'm going to share in that vPub, there'll be others that are not Scotches. And I think that that's becoming more and more of a thing. Why? Because there's so much more choice and variety at very high quality from other places outside of Scotland. But also the prices within the Scotch whisky sector right now are making it easy for Go to touch things that were previously prohibitively expensive from other locations. Price is becoming a factor now as well. I think we can't say Scotch is the best whiskey, speaking as a Scottish person now, but I can say everyone plays their part to strive to help Scotch be as good as it can be and still be Scotch. And that's all we can really, really do. I worry sometimes that sometimes that's not happening, but generally speaking, you know, Scotch isn't necessarily the best, but we can certainly strive for it to be the best, because every other category that's out there is doing the very same thing, right? Sorry to spring that one on you, but I wanted to get that reaction.
You know I'll get an answer for it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm only going to give you things that potentially you're going to have in a tasting somewhere or in one of these kind of noisy festival environments, right, where it's tough. There's some drams coming in here. My goodness, have I been missing things? David Hong bought me a dram tonight. I don't know how long ago that was, David. I'm so sorry that I missed that. I usually click a wee love and a like. Thank you very, very much. Daniel Williams, I caught that one. Chris B has joined the Aquavita Barflies. Chris, it's so nice to see you in, buddy. It's always wonderful to welcome you in the vPub. Thank you for supporting us a Barfly again. You've got a gold Barfly there, so that suggests that you're rejoining, buddy. Wonderful to have your support. Peter Lee is saying, good evening, Roy and Shilton. Currently still at work, sharpening my knives and watching the vPub. Was really good to catch up with you both at Glasgow Whisky Club. Obviously, we both met Peter earlier this week at the club. Fantastic, buddy. Have a wonderful birthday this weekend. Jimmy Legs bought me a dram to say, not always, sometimes there's rye in your glass. I don't know if there's always rye in Jimmy Legs' glass, but he's spot on. We like to switch it up a wee bit, and it doesn't always need to be Scotch. Donald Pass Whisky has bought me a dram as well to say, Dr. Jim Swan's Spirit Influence Whisky around the world yesterday, today, and in the future. What a legacy he has left right across Scotland and the globe. Quite incredible footprint. Quite an indelible mark he's left. So lucky for us all. Fantastic. And cheers. Thank you very much, Tim. Thank you for your generous dram. And right on cue, my goodness, Wook has come in and they've bought me a fantastically generous, my goodness, wonderful virtual dram from somewhere in Europe. We don't know much about where they are from or what they do. All we know is that they get something from whatever we hang out into every Thursday night, and they're very, very generous with their drams. So here's to Jimmy Legg, here's to Chris Brown, here's to birthday boy Peter Lee, here's to Tim Dorpass Whiskey, and here's to the ever generous Wook. Slanchava, thank you all so much. Thank you. And he goes on to share the generosity with the lounge as well, purchasing another 50 free memberships for 50 lucky recipients out there. Fantastic stuff. Falsgraph is saying, I'm thinking of doing a whiskey tasting in the context of my church sometime before Christmas. I guess that Israeli whiskey could be part of that. Fantastic. I wonder what the theme is going to be. Is it going to be a country-based theme? Graham Fraser is saying, good evening, Roy. Shilton and Barflies just heading home from an Ardnamurchan adventurers gathering in Glasgow this evening. Another one that I couldn't attend because it's another night that they've held it on a Thursday. I'm going to need to have a word with those folk at Ardnamurchan. I hope you had a great night, Graham, and it's wonderful to welcome you in. Bud Jenkins is saying, I admit that my first dram of milk and honey made me aware that there are other countries making very good whiskey. We are spoiled for choice in Scotch and world whiskey. Amen to that, Bud. You're absolutely spot on. And only by tasting it, only by exploring, can we discover that realization. Greg's Whiskey Guide is saying, has Shilton tried any French whiskey? Have you connected with any French whiskey yet?
I've tried the Armoric,
Yes.
and I've tried a few more. I was at the Toulouse Whiskey Festival recently, and I have tried a few more as well. Exciting stuff, but if you ask me, something which is more, I know Armoric for some time now, and they've been out, so still my favorite whiskey coming from there.
Blown away. I did a Six Nations and a rugby themed thing on the vPub earlier in the year. For the French whiskey, we put forward Armoric, the 10-year-old, and it took the plaudits that night. It was the big hit and surprise of the night, the Armoric 10-year-old. Very Scotch-alike. I think it's one of those whiskies out there, despite it being French, you could put that in a lineup and it could masquerade as a nice, delicious, well-made Scotch whiskey. I really believe that.
There's a funny thing I did at Toulouse as well, Roy, just because we are the Armoric and the French whiskey topic. So I knew Armoric for some time, and I know their range, and always been a big fan of them. But then there was some other distilleries who are out in the market as well, and they said, like, try this. So I give it a try, and I said, give me a minute, I'll be back with you. And I went back to Armoric to try it, okay, and to see if it is. I'm like, nah, I'm still sticking with Armoric for now. Not saying it is bad, but I want to pick up a favorite whiskey, or something like that.
But it's obviously the time that they've been around long enough now. They've got a 15-year-old out now, a 15-year-old. Fantastic.
I know them for 2016, 17. It's been some time. I know them.
Okay, buddy, you've got one more thing to share with us. We're at the end of the night now. Things are becoming a little bit blurry. Our palates are starting to kind of be kind of dulled down a bit by all the whiskey that we've been drinking. It's the last dram of the last flight. What we need is one of those things that really focus our attention again. We're looking for the attention grabber, the thing that cuts through the crowd, the thing that makes it difficult to maintain polite conversation because the whiskey is shouting for our attention. What's your pick going to be?
It's a very under-the-counter dram, I would say.
Oh, he's going on brand again. Good stuff.
Single cask, Fortified red wine cask, UK exclusive whiskey. It's a one at 66.5% ABV as well.
So this is the sample, 66.5. This is the sample you brought me.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
A single cask that we did for the UK only. This is only 361 bottles that we got from the cask. It is a port-like. We can't call it port wine cask because it's not from Portugal, of course, but the wine is made in Israel. One of the things, Roy, to mention is Israel being a wine-drinking country, it's never a big challenge to source some wine cask. So that's why you'll see a lot of wine casks being used. Port, there is a port-like, dry, all the different types. We even use a pomegranate wine cask. There's a winery which makes wine from pomegranates. So this is Fortified red wine cask. For me, I would pick this up. It's at 66.5. It's a banger. I'm like, whoa. Definitely. It's one of the things which you're saying. You come to the stand back to say, bye, Shilton. Nice seeing you. See you next year. I'm going to, wait a minute. Try this, and then you're stuck there for the next 15 minutes.
Yeah, here's something that you can chew on all the way home, right? I can tell already.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. Now, I managed to get a wee sip of this straight from the sample at the Whiskey Club on Monday night. We poured it into an empty glass. And I can sense it's going to do the exact same thing tonight as it did then. 66.5% ABV. Obviously, it's leaning into the provenance, the local, exactly what you're talking about, because if you're using local wine casks to do this thing, it just makes sense. 66.5.
Again, the cask been filled up at 63, 64% ABV, but then the ABV goes up, of course, with the weather.
Oh, wow.
I wanted to see that face.
The high ABV just kind of, and it's not kind of like hot. It's just that kind of intensity. It's a wee bit like when you sip those really high proof bourbons, right? You have this really, really big hit of kind of cinnamon and spice and chili heat and things like that. But there's perceptible flavor from it too. So intense. Absolutely. If this was in a glass and we were having a polite chat and I picked this up and sipped this, immediately you'd have to stop and comment on it, right? It's not the thing that you just kind of knock back while you're enjoying other activities. If you're sipping this whiskey, you're in this whiskey.
I was surprised because this was bottled in 21. 3 years old whiskey again, Roy. 3 years in that type of cask, can see the amount of flavors. It's at 66, but you really don't feel it at 66 that much.
No, it's not alcohol heat. It's spice and flavor. It's dense and it's rich. I don't know. There's no way. I think it masks the cask very well too. I don't think it's very obviously red wine. I don't think it's very obviously port-like. I don't think it's very. I mean, you're calling it fortified wine. What does it say on the label?
Fortified wine cask. Fortified red wine. Fortified red wine. The single cask that we did for UK, we did an Epics in the small batches. It's out in Europe, which is kind of similar, but a peated version of this, peated fortified, and that was amazing as well.
So this is single cask.
Single cask only for the UK.
That is the type of whiskey.
I like the way it says on the screen, cuts through the crowd, and this definitely does.
Yeah. And I think this is definitely the kind of whiskey you could pour 1 tablespoon of this, take it to the sofa, and get through an entire movie.
Yeah.
And still have the liquid in the glass, right? You would be it's just nose, tiny sip. It stays on the palate for eons, for minutes. Chewy.
It's very chewy. It's chewy. It's got that meaty character to that as well, barbecuey. But it's also at the same time, it's a 66, so I will definitely give it some time to open up. It's not something over time, it will just get better.
Sweet ginger, crystallized ginger, lots of cinnamon, almost like if anybody's ever tried those cinnamon gobstoppers we used to get as kids. It was almost, they were called daredevils. They were really, you just suck on them forever. They're just big cinnamon flavored gobstoppers. It's like that, lots of cinnamon. Lots of spice, chili, bit of dark chocolate. Fruit is dark fruit here. I'd have to go towards the kind of jam end of the spectrum again. Cooked fruit, reduced fruits, that kind of thing. It's so easy just to talk about the flavors because it still sits there. You know, it's just in on your palate. It's just hanging around.
It's again one of those when you just tried all. We tried 4 whiskeys today, and you're having a party at home, and people are just having a good time and drinking it. And then when everybody leaves, you just want to sit down with the dram for yourself. So that's the kind of a dram. I'm not sharing this with you.
And just try. It's one of those really challenging ones, though. You need to sit and focus to parse out what you're actually experiencing, right? So intense. 66.5% ABV. I do have one or two scotches on the shelf that are up at that ABV, but it's normally a scotch that's been filled at still strength rather than reduced to 63.5. I've got Highland Park, I've got Glenrothes, I've got one or two others that are at that ABV, but this kind of ABV, this kind of intensity of spirit is not something that typically exists inside the Scotch sector, right?
We have some bottles at 67, 69 as well. It's a single cask, but that's what you get. That's what you get. One of them, I think, the labels we can maybe talk about later, but that's what you get. And the whole idea for us, the spirit itself, Roy, that we start off with is very thick and oily, and we try to keep it that way. So we need the balance and not let the wood take over. Remember that we are maturing quicker, so you get a faster extraction rate. Anytime the wood can be taking over, but we need the balance on it. So maintaining the balance is the key for the brand. That's the ideology.
This is sweetening. As I sip after sip, I'm getting it's sweetening on the palate. I started to get some kind of molasses treacle type notes there, and then that last sip it drifted into almost, you know what tablet is, the sugar Scott the sweet candy thing that we have, that tablet. It's just that got this kind of brown sugar thing happening as well. That's a pretty complex thing for 3 years old.
Did you try the drop of water as well?
No, but I shall. We've got a wee dram in from Craig McGinn. I wonder if you're related to... No, obviously not. I need to keep off the football. I'm very excited about the football starting tomorrow, Shilton. I hope everybody has success in the Euros. I hope their teams are going to do well. But I'm particularly excited to watch Scotland. I don't even care what the results are. I'm just excited that we get to participate in a game, right?
I have heard the pubs in Germany are running out of beer at the moment.
No, they shouldn't be running out of beer because they're Germany, and they knew that the Scots were coming, right? 200,000 Scots traveling from Scotland. You know, it's something like 2 or 3% of our population is migrating to Germany right now.
Very, very challenging, a tough job for them not to serve, but I think to just make sure the beers are in. Running on the tap, yeah.
Running out of beer would be a blunder. There's no excuse for that. No excuse for that. Craig McGinn has bought us a dram regardless, saying cheers from Craig and Jennifer, enjoying a wee whiskey tasting night. Brooklady coming out on top. I wonder which Brooklady that is, Craig. Fantastic. Raise a wee glass to you and Jennifer. Thank you very much for your generous dram. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Cheers. Oh, I think a wee bit of water only intensified things. More. There's a bitterness there as well. There's a kind of bitter fruit, like a maybe grapefruity note or something coming out now.
If you give it a good chew, it gets a bit more spice as well. More spice coming out as well from that.
It's funny how sometimes adding a wee splash of water can just fire the spices. You know, it's strange that you would get that. I know I add a wee bit more and give it time in a glass and they subdue again, but sometimes that initial response of adding a wee bit of water, you get that explosion of spices. Danny Hebbington as well has also bought me a generous dram. Danny, thank you very much. I see the quiz in with a wee dram of Kilkerran, Port Cask, Slancheroy and Shilton for a lovely evening. What a nice wee tribute to one of your picks as well from Danny up there in Scotland. Danny, thank you very much for your generous dram. I'm going to take the last of Shilton's crowd. What was it? Attention grabber. You know, it's one of those things that a little goes a long, long way. But because it's so Moorish, because it's so intense, you're tempted to keep going back and kind of recharge and parse it out and try and work out. In a Dramfeast article recently, Murdo talked about the flavour train. That sip, it passes so fast, it's like a train going past really quickly. So all the flavours happen so quickly. You know that there's a train past, but you weren't able to define specific windows or carriages or graphics or anything. And it's slowing down, stopping the train to try and work out what's happening as you sip the whiskey. That's exactly a very, very good analogy for this.
It's so Morris. You really want to go on with it, but then you just realize, oh, it's 6 to 6.5. You have to be careful with that as well.
Well, I'm going to be careful, but this is going to be the pour for the quiz at the end, Shilton. That is quite a potent, flavoursome, intense whiskey. There's quite a lot of spirit there. I think there's still quite a lot of kind of malty, the type of things that the sweeter notes and things that you would get on malt spirit is still intact here. So I don't think I'd go as far to say that it's completely been dominated by the cask. I think there's still a lot of the kind of that kind of youthful, that character, that vibe, that voice is still here. But it's so flavoursome and tasty. And I'm going to put a wee drop of water in at the start this time and see how we go on. Are you prepared? Are you able to hang around and join us for the quiz at the end?
Hang around? Yes. Prepared for the quiz? No.
Well, let me tell you, my friend, the quiz will have a couple of questions that are freebies for you because they will be on theme for, like a guest vPub. I tend to put a couple of questions in there that's on theme with the guest of the evening. A couple of them should be gimmies. But if I'm honest, Shilton, the rest of the questions are brutal. It's a typical quiz at the end. Strap in. Only share your score if you want to, but I'll be pushing you to share what your answers are for each and see how we got on. It's never easy. It's never easy, big guy.
I think I've got some problem with my internet now. Before we go to the quiz, Roy, I want to show this, and I wanted to share this with you.
Okay.
I have one of this with me.
Oh my goodness. What number is that?
It's 208.
My goodness. That's the first edition. Turn it around. Let's see the other side. That's the very first coin. Wow. That's amazing.
This was given to me by a very good, very close friend of mine. There's a certain Mr. Andy Perslow.
Wow.
So Andy gifted this to me a long time ago, and it's always on my bar. I'm still sitting with it every time. So you'll see me all this while I was just going on with this.
One of the original Aquavitae Challenge coins. That's right. There's very few of those around because the original set, the one that you have there was only 250 of them. That's amazing. Let's raise a wee glass to our pal Andy, one of the finest men that will ever be introduced to him with you, right?
For ages.
Andy, cheers to you, big guy. That's amazing. I hope I replaced his when I heard that he gave that one to you. Stephen Wilson's bought me a dram as well. Fantastic, Stephen. Thank you so much, my friend. Great vPub tonight, Roy. Enjoying Shilton's input and cheers. Thank you very much, Stephen. Nice to have you around. And thank you very much for your generous dram, buddy. Cheers. Okay, we've got Shilton for a few more minutes. See how he gets on with a quiz at the end. All the guests, all what the industry drinks guests have managed to stay for the quiz at the end so far. It's becoming a tradition. No pressure, big guy. I have to say, I think I might have given you the toughest one, despite a few gimmies for yourself. Let's see how we got on. Remember, it's always multiple choice. You're only playing against yourself. Only share the score if you want to share. Pass mark is usually halfway, 5 out of 10 for a pass mark to be safe. There's a couple of tricky ones tonight. Watch out for the banana skins and just have a wee bit of fun with it. Good luck, Shilton. Let's see how we got on. Question 1. Which of the following is an official milk and honey release? Apologies for the lack of capitalization on the honey there. We're looking for official milk and honey releases. If Shilton gets this one wrong, it's a red face to start, right? A, local barley. B, elements peated. C, de Shilton. Which of those three are legitimate, official milk and honey releases from the distillery? A, local barley. B, elements peated. Or C, de Shilton. Pete Ed is saying, I'll be on the sofa. George P is saying, Aquavita and Shilton, excellent and candid vPub. Thanks so much for your time, passion, and insight. Thank you very much, George, for your kind words as well. I think anytime, if you ever get the opportunity to go up and meet Shilton in real life as well, a candid attitude and sharing is what you're guaranteed. They better not run out of beer on Tuesday in Dusseldorf. Ben is heading over to Germany. I'm very, very jealous. Fantastic. I hope you have a brilliant time there, Ben. Hope you tell us all about it when you get back. Okay. Milk and honey have A, local barley, B, elements peated, or C, de Shilton. Okay. Shilton, the answers are coming in. Falsgraf is suggesting that de Shilton is coming next year. Tell us, of the A, local barley, B, elements peated, and C, de Shilton, which of those are official Milk and Honey releases?
There are two, A and B.
Local barley is an
Local
official
barley
release.
and elements peated are the official releases.
Well, there's no de Shilton. Absolutely spot on. Local barley is legitimate. Elements peated has already been mentioned tonight in the vPub. But there is a de Shilton. I've got a photo of it. Can I share?
Yeah, of course you can.
An independent bottler in tribute to the character and the man that is Shilton Almeida has released a series of whiskies called De Shilton. Here we have, I think edition 1 is on the left and edition 2 is on the right. You can guide me here. There are 2 so far. The only difference... Tell us about these. What are these?
This has been done. This is gonna be funny. This has been done by good friends in Belgium, Club 23. They are indie bottlers. They have done before, and they came to me one day saying, "Shilton, we want to do a M&H single cask and put your face on it." I said, "Okay." Not sure. I'm not a big fan, but fine. And then the guys did Dominic. He did a photo shoot in Belgium somewhere, and then he sent me this draft saying this is the label. I'm like, this is a bit too much straight up. I wasn't prepared for it. And then I asked him the reason as well. I said, no, just because people love you here in Belgium and we want to do that. So there are 2 different single casks. There is a series of it. Every time the color of the ring will change with the type of the cask. So the one on the left, on the orange one, is a virgin oak. The one on the right, which is called as an X Alba, which is an X Scotch cask. We can't put the name on it, so we call it X Alba. So there will be a series of different, and every time the color of the ring will change.
And obviously these are Milk and Honey casks, so Milk and Honey are on board with the project as well. It's just, I think it's fantastic. I think it's a shame that it's only in Belgium, because I would put a bottle of de Shilton on my shelf. I really, really would. I think it's fantastic. And that face that you're pulling on that label there, it might be a photo shoot face, but we've seen that regularly in real life. Just having a chat over a thing.
This is actually not a Photoshop. I mean, it is a photo, and then there is an artist who have actually done this one with the charcoal painting.
Yes.
So the guy has really done it. I've got photos and I've seen him doing it as well. So he's done the art, and then the label is. I'm still waiting for the actual original artwork to get it for me at home here. But the idea was behind the rings as well. So I'm not wearing it today, but you've seen it before. The rings and the color of the ring will change. It's a very Star Wars ring thing as well.
I think it's fantastic. I just think it's brilliant. What a tribute to you. What a tribute to you, to your work, to your effort, to your evangelism, to your passion over the years. I think you should enjoy it. I think it's wonderful. Well done. Anyway, A&B was
the one on the left is a good luck to find it. I don't see because it was sold in 2 days or something. The one on the right is still available in some shops around. Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. If you're in Belgium.
Yep.
If you're in Belgium. Question 2. Which of these was a legitimate Glenlivet release in relatively recent years? I'm going to give you 3 options. Obviously, I'm looking for legitimate Glenlivet release in this instance. A, Glenlivet the illicit still. B, Glenlivet the founder's dram. Or C, Glenlivet the licensed dram. I'm looking for a legitimate Glenlivet release. I noticed there's no banana skin here. Maybe there should be a banana skin. I don't know. I thought that was himself on the bottle behind him. Oh, have you got a bottle behind you with your own likeness on it? There it is there. Yes. So that is one of the Shilton bottles. Is that the Virgin Oak one?
That's Virgin Oak one, yes.
Yeah.
I'll bring this up, and next time we see, probably definitely want to try. Virgin Oak is my favorite, so I will let you try this, Roy.
Fantastic. I look forward to that. Well spotted, Danny. Well spotted. Well spotted. Okay, buddy. What are we thinking here? The chats are in. Matthew Reinke is here. Good to see you. Yuri is here as well, Simply About Whiskey, suggesting it's C. Ian Bruce is here saying A. Gabriel Welding saying A and C. Desi Vleeland in the Netherlands, fantastic. Jimmy Legg is saying A. Bruce Bernard is saying A and C. James Morgan, change to C to be safe. What are we saying here, Shilton?
I was thinking of A.
The illicit still.
Yes.
Glenlivet released a 12-year-old illicit still and also a licensed dram. Founders Dram, no, but they did once release and still have it today. What a very successful product for Glenlivet. The Founders Reserve, not the Founders Dram. So absolutely right. I couldn't catch people out with that. Early banana skin. Well answered, everyone. Question 3. Which of the following distilleries distills, matures, and bottles all of its production on site? Distills, that's a given, of course, but then to mature it all on site and to bottle it all on site is not that common. A. Loch Lomond, B. Isle of Raasay, or C. Ardnamurchan. So we're looking for a bottling plant on site, we're looking for maturation warehouses on site, and we're looking for, of course, the given distillation on site too. Donner Pass Whiskey is saying bonus point for knowing both. You can keep it as a bonus point if you like, Tim. You might need that bonus point a wee bit later. But it just makes it a wee bit easier for you to be sure to get a point when there's two options, right? Kyle Taylor is here. Good to see you, Kyle. Wonderful to have you in. Jimmy Jazz is here saying B. Brian Cabalis is saying B. Lachlan McKenzie B. Dave the Brave B. George P. Klitzt. Chris Barlow, everybody answering B for this one. Everybody thinks it's Isle of Raasay with the bottling plant on site. What do we think, Shilton? You want to have a stab at this one?
I've been to Loch Lomond, so I'm going to take that off. The other two, I'm just guessing. I'm going to go with Raasay.
Okay. Loch Lomond has a bottling plant at Catrin. Ardnamurchan has a bottling plant in Dunfermline, or close to Dunfermline. Isle of Raasay has a bottling plant on site. On site, yep. Everything leaves the island in glass. They have their own borehole, take their water, so the reduction water that goes into the bottling as well is the same water that they use for production, and it's not common. Springbank, of course, is another one that comes to mind. Kilchoman. Question 4. Which of these producers has been releasing a product named Christmas Edition annually since 2018? Christmas Edition. Is Christmas Edition from A, Milk and Honey? Is it from B, Douglas Laing's Big Pete? Or is it from C, Paul John? Oh, I see it. You've got a good poker face, Shilton, but I see confidence here.
Yeah, well, there's a reason for that as well.
Falsgraf is thanking the crowd. He's hanging on to 3 out of 3 by following the crowd. Superb. Good work, Klaus. James Morgan is saying, yeah, most of my points come from that tactic. Plus, I learn CCCCC. I have a sample bottle, says Jimmy Legg. Ooh, C. Kyle Taylor is saying, okay, so going with C then. Shilton, tell us, is it Milk and Honey, Big Pete, or Paul John that has been releasing Christmas Edition annually since 2018?
That's a C.
Paul John.
It's a lovely whiskey as well. I wish there was more of it to drink.
Wow. Well, I noticed that the Christmas editions they tend to be still available long after the whatever. You can still go back and buy earlier editions. They seem to be quite generous outturns. But the reason there was a banana skin in there, of course, is because Big Pete has become famous for Christmas editions too. I thought I might be able to catch a few people out along with that question there. But yeah, Paul John has been famously releasing a Christmas edition every year since
We
2019.
at MNH we do a Christmas edition as well. So yeah, that was
Yeah, but it's
something
much
that-
more recent, and you're calling it Christmas Treat.
Yes.
Christmas
That
Treat.
that started only now after I started. I think last year, 2 years.
Yeah.
Started off over there, but 2018 is the first one which Paul John did. It was in Oloroso, I think. Lovely whiskey. There was not much of that. I think I managed to just get 2 bottles, keep it aside.
It's funny how you're precious about some things. It's easy to relate to.
For me,
Okay.
it's only what I love. So whatever I love coming in.
You're gonna recognize this pose in the next picture question. This is me and Petehead Frank doing the barflies pose at Glengoyne, and this was probably a year or two ago. But I want to show the original picture, and it's a shame I don't have it on screen, but I'll try and get the camera to focus on this one. This is the original, the first time that the pose was ever attempted. And this is going back to 2017, November 2017. Look at the baby face on you, but I think I actually look older in this picture.
I was just going to say we were younger.
I was certainly younger. But I'm not sure how. I need to get our quiz back. What's happened to our quiz? Here we go. There we are. We're back again. So I'm obviously just not really interested in the fact that we're making this pose, but I'm going to ask where we are. Where is Frank and I standing here? Julian Rickman has bought us a wee dram to say, great evening, Roy, and had the pleasure of Shilton a few years back with Paul John, a true gent of the industry and very entertaining. Thank you. Thank you very much, Julian, and thank you very much for your generous dram as well. Cheers to you. Helping me knock back this 66% ABV dram. Where are we in this image? Are we A in the Highlands, B in Speyside, or C in the Lowlands? Since when did Big Pete CE appear then? Oh, CE, which one is that? Christmas edition. Oh, Big Pete's Christmas edition. I think it's been going for over a decade now, Frank.
It was going on for some time. Yeah.
A long time, yeah. The glasses make you younger, says Falsgraf. Oh, thank you. I'll take that. Hey, Whiskey with Molly
That
said,
was not even intentional. It just came up. I don't know why and what we were thinking. We're just coming up with that pose.
But Ben Whiskey with Molly is suggesting that I've already suggested the distillery name here. I've already said it. Did I say it?
You did.
Oh, okay. It's the 66.5% ABV is causing problems. But I've still not given away the answer. Looks like you have a few samples in your pocket, says Jimmy Legg. That'll be my phone. It's definitely not going to be my wallet. I can tell you that much, Jimmy. Petehead is saying, so B was correct then on the previous question. B was correct then on... no, the Christmas edition was C, right?
Yeah, the question says not the oldest. It says since 2018. So C is correct.
Yes, C, since 2018, yeah.
It doesn't say oldest, so yeah.
Okay, Shilton, where are we? Where are we in this picture?
It's a one which you have to say. Depends on where you are standing.
Yeah.
How if you walk a little bit, you could be somewhere else. I'll go with A.
If we're in the courtyard, you're absolutely spot on. We're in the Highlands. If we cross the road and go down towards the warehouses or the car park, we would be in the Lowlands. Absolutely, we are at Glengoyne. Sorry I slipped up, but you still had a wee bit of working out to do, even after I'd said that. And let me tell you, as the questions go on tonight, you might need a wee giveaway there, a wee bonus. You're 5 for 5, Shilton. Well done. Congratulations on the pass mark.
I'm done. That was my target. I wanted 5 and that's it. Me done.
You're off higher now, buddy. You can go. Listen,
I don't care what's happening next.
Strap in. It's going to get a wee bit more uncomfortable. If I remember well, question 6. This week, Dramface reviewed a malt made from 6-row barley. Where was it from? We didn't even touch upon 2-row and 6-row barley in this session, but it's often a discussion I have with you or I hear from you, 6-row versus 2-row barley. This week, Dramface reviewed a malt made from 6-row barley. Where was it from? A, it was a malt from continental Europe. B, it was a malt from India. Or C, it was a malt from Scotland. Is this the distillery side or the dunnage side of the road? Tim, that was the distillery side of the road, so it was in the Highlands, absolutely. So you could see some of the distillery buildings on the left and the Glengoyne Cottage or Glengoyne House, whatever they call it. I can't remember what they call it, actually, just behind us there. Do you read Dramface occasionally, Shilton?
Sometimes, yeah.
I hope you've been reading it this week. Jimmy Legg is saying, I'm just going with Ben. I'm a month behind on Dramface. You can just dip in and out anytime, Jimmy. Just pick the articles that you're interested in. What is Shilton going to choose? 6-row barley review. Was it a continental European one, Indian one, or Scottish one?
Because I know the answer, I'm going to do C.
Oh, okay. So I'm trying. The reason there's banana skin in here is because obviously brands like Piccadilly, brands like Paul John,
everybody, all the distilleries in India at the moment use 6-row barley.
6-row barley, yeah. But all the Scottish distilleries use 2-row barley.
Yep.
Unless it's beer barley, which was a Bruichladdich beer barley released and compared against the Islay barley earlier this week on Dramface. So C, dodge the banana skin there. Well done. Did he say, because I know the answer, is asking Jimmy Legg? He said that's exactly what he said. He says, yes, because I know the answer. I hope he does read Dramface from time to time, because I hope in the future we'll be able to put on 1 or 2 bottles that he's been responsible for in the past too. Question, oh, sorry, I just put a wee snap up there of the particular one. The beer barley was 2013 vintage, put up against the 24 vintage Islay barley, if I recall correctly. Question 7.
This was a classic example of the whiskey, Roy. Whenever I used to talk about 6-row barley before with Paul John, I used to always mention about beer barley to give an example of people connecting it.
Heritage grains. Yeah. Fantastic. How long, question 7, has Springbank been bottling and releasing malts labelled as local barley? Okay, so I can see that you're less comfortable with this one, Shilton. How long has Springbank been bottling and releasing malts labelled as local barley? A, over 20 years. B, 13 years. C, 9 years. This is the famous local barley labelling with the yellow painting, the countryside in the background. I'm saying that from now on to every question I'm asked, Aquavite, says Jimmy Legg. And Ian Bruce is saying, will Dramface ever have an audible descriptor added like Substack? We've looked into it. There are difficulties. It is awkward. And everything that you add to Dramface costs money. We are looking into it. Well, you're not the first question to ask, Ian, and I understand why it could be handy, because then you can take in the article as you're driving or as you're distracted doing other things, no doubt. Do labels matter? Yes, in this question they do, James. How long has Springbank been bottling and releasing malts labelled as local barley? Shilton, when you're ready, my friend.
Guesswork. I'm going to go B. Guessing it.
Okay, 13 years. So Shilton thinks maybe since 2011, somewhere of that order.
Guesswork.
Good stuff. Lots of people saying A. Glenn B is saying B. And Vassal is here. Good to see you, Vassal. Good to see you, Glenn. Both agreeing with Shilton. Gino is agreeing as well with Shilton. Fantastic. James Morgan also with Shilton. But Ian, Tobias, and Cursor in Seattle. That looks like a new name. Welcome in. Suggesting A, and you're absolutely correct. Over 20 years. Now, unfortunately, I don't think I've got a picture of this coming up. I should have taken a picture of it. But 2001. But they have been releasing local barley, but without calling it local barley, for decades. For decades. They've been producing local barley since the 1960s. It became known and labelled as local barley with the yellow label in 2001. Amazing, right? So it's a shame I didn't put a picture in there. I would normally do that. That's your first banana skin, big guy. First slip up. Question 8. Which of these distilleries has the slightly unusual combination of a single wash still combined with 2 spirit stills? A. Ben Romack, B. Auchentoshan, or C. Glengoyne? Which distillery has the slightly unusual combination of a single wash still combined with 2 spirit stills? It's not unique, but it is strange. Oh, lots of 7 out of 7s. Jimmy Legg on a 7 out of 7. George P. Brian Caballes, Chris Barlow, Ian Bruce, Simone or Simon, Simone, I think, Simone, Hell's Wood, Whiskey with Molly Ben, Kyle Taylor, Gene Kelly, fantastic. Graham Fraser, Jimmy Jazz, Tobias Klitzt. Good stuff. Tricky one, this one, Shilton. Head scratcher. What are you feeling?
It's been a while. I've been to 2 of these. 1 I've not been there. So I'm going to go with Glengoyne. Just a feeling.
Okay. Which is the one you've not been to?
Oh, funny enough, I live 20 minutes walking distance from Auchentoshan.
I almost asked that as a joke, but actually it's true, right? It's like the New Yorker who doesn't go up the Empire State Building, right? You're 20 minutes
walking distance from Auchentoshan. I've not been there. I've been to Glengoyne, Ben Romack.
Well, let me tell you, if you did take that 20-minute walk and go to Auchentoshan, you would stumble across 3 pot stills. But you would find one is a wash still, one is an intermediate still, and one is a spirit still. Ben Romack only has 2 pot stills, but Glengoyne has a wash still and 2 spirit stills. Alice Springbank, it's a strange setup. So the banana skin there was obviously Glengoyne. Auchentoshan was in there as a banana skin. Well dodged, buddy. That's you on 7 out of 8, doing very, very well as we roll into 2 ass hats at the end. Doubling up on the ass hat questions this week. 2 very, very difficult ones to finish on. Question 9. In what year did Andrew Symington of Signatory Vintage buy Edradour from Pernod Ricard? What year did Edradour get purchased by Signatory Vintage from Pernod? In the same year as A, Arran was founded. In the same year as B, Clynelish 14-year-old was released. That is the new 14-year-old, the one that replaced the Flora and Fauna. Or was it in the same year as C, the original Classic Malts of Scotland range was released by DCL back then? What year?
Your 3 options, Roy, A, B, C, are questions in themselves, right?
That's the very nature of the ASAT. You've got to know the answer to the answers in order to reconcile them. Yes.
I can see 4 questions here.
Yes, exactly. I'll give you a bit more time. Jimmy Legg is saying, this seems like a very difficult question when you're on 8 out of 8. Sorry, Jimmy. Sorry, buddy. I know there's lots of 8 out of 8s on there with you as well. I'm losing a lot of friends tonight, no doubt. Gene Kelly is there. Ben Whiskey with Molly. Lots of strong performances on a 7-2. Hellswood. Kyle Taylor. Brian Cabales, Simone, Tobias, Jimmy Jazz, Chris Barlow, good to see you, Chris, Klitzt, Ian Bruce, George P, lots of 8s. Greg's Whiskey Guide in Paris. Greg in Paris is also on an 8. Is that giving you any time to try and figure out a solution?
It's very confusing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna. You want me to tell you now what I think?
Yes, please.
I'm gonna take off the C. Guesswork. I'm gonna take off the A and then go with B.
Classic Malts of Scotland range was released by DCL in 1988. Arran Lochranza was founded in 1995. Clynelish was changed from Flora and Fauna to a 14-year-old extended classic malts, or the hidden malts as they were called, in 2002, which was the same year that Andrew Symington of Signatory Vintage bought Edredar from Pernod Ricard. Signatory Vintage was obviously founded in the 80s, but they purchased the distillery in 2002. Educated guesswork there, Shilton. Well done.
I know. I'm surprised I'm doing more than 5.
Well, I can tell you that the question at the end is also an asshat question as well. There's still Jimmy's holding on 9 out of 9. Ian Bruce on 9 out of 9 as well. 9 out of 9 for Hell's Wood. Kyle Taylor 9. Graham Fraser 9. Can you see, even when people follow each other in the lounge, it's still really, really tricky to navigate your way through to getting a 10 out of 10 at the end with questions like this. Question 10. Of all the new Scotch malt distilleries that have been founded since the year 2000, around 35 have been founded since 2013. So how many does that leave? How many were founded before that? So there's been an explosion of Scotch malt distilleries being founded in the 21st century. So if you take the total number, about 35 of them has been founded since 2013. In the last 10 years, we would say. But 2000 to 2013, how many were founded? Is it A, the same number as the age stated on Ballindalic's core release? B, about the same number of years as Kilkerran 12-year-old has been available? Or C, about the same number of years as C, Shilton has been working in whiskey? Oh my goodness. This is going to be tricky, tricky, tricky. I'm going to lose a lot of friends.
Well, you lost me just now. You lost me as a friend just now.
Yeah. Well, there's been a huge explosion of whiskies in this century, right? But I think what I'm angling at here is really just the quickening has actually been very recent. 35 in the last decade. That's tremendous, right? 35 new distilleries in the last 10 years. And I'm not talking about in construction, planning, permission. I'm talking about what distilleries that are actually producing. So what I'm trying to contextualize here is in the 13 years or the 12 or 13 years before that, how many were founded? The age stated in Ballindalic's core release, I don't know if you know that. The amount of years that Kilkerran 12-year-old has been available on the market, don't know if you know that. You certainly know the amount of years that Shilton has been working in whiskey. Specifically in whiskey, by the way. Dave Barnes is saying, change my mind, A. Hoyt Hemphill is in and saying A. Fantastic, Hoyt. Well done. Gabriel Welding is saying A. Lachlan McKenzie is saying A. Terrific stuff. Danny Hebington is saying, oh, go on, C. Greg's Whiskey Guide is saying, damned. Let's play homage to Shilton and say C. Whiskey with Molly Benny and Bruce, Gino Camo, all saying A. Glenn B changing to A, change to A, change to A. Shilton, tell us, what's your guess going to be?
because I'm doing a guesswork, I'm going to go see.
Shilton, how many years have you been working in whiskey?
13.
I can tell you that the distilleries founded between 2000 and 2013 is Glengyle, Kilhoman, Rose Isle, Ailsa Bay, Avenjarrick, Daft Mill, and Eden Mill. 7 distilleries. If you'd answered A or B, you'd have been correct. Not only is it an asshat, I've somehow managed to.
I wanted to say B, but then you said something in between, saying specifically in the whiskey. I'm like,
Oh.
if you had to not say that, I was going with B. Oh dear.
I am becoming more and more hateful, more and more horrible. Yes, there should be a banana skin in there. So despite me putting a 66% chance of getting it right, I still managed to throw a banana skin in there. Apologies, big guy. Listen, you managed an 8 out of 10 on the quiz at the end. That is some pretty potent performance right there. Fantastic.
Nice knowing you. Nice knowing you, Roy.
The rage, especially after you've gifted me a gorgeous bottle of very, very difficult to get, lower ABV Indri still chill filtered at 42.8% ABV, and that amazing bottle of the Apex as well, and that even more amazing again, a sample of the Fortified wine cask, and that lovely thing that'll never ever open because I love it so much, right? Just an amazing wee Tetra Pak carton of whiskey, 180 mils of whiskey. Amazing, buddy. Congratulations on an 8 out of 10, though. Fantastic score. Let's see how the lounge did on the scores as well before we finish up. I think close to 1,000 new distilleries in the US in the same time period. Chris, Everwind suggesting that. Absolutely, Chris. It's good to see you in here, buddy, and it's just incredible what's happening across the globe. Whiskey with Molly celebrating a 10 out of 10 before he goes off to Germany. Amazing. Dave Barnes on a 10. Superb manoeuvring, Dave. Hellswood. Helen celebrating a 10-2. Fantastic. 10 emojis lighting it up tonight. They've done okay. Simone on a 10. Ian Bruce on a 10. Haha, wrecked, says Raoul. Good to see you, Raoul, on an 8. Holy moly, 10 out of 10 for Klitz. Fantastic. Jimmy Jazz on a 10 out of 10. Kilkerran never fails me, says Mike Molasses. 8 out of 10, not too bad. Absolutely, Falsgraph. You're matching the superhuman that is Shilton tonight. Whoop, whoop, 10 out of 10 back-to-back for Hellswood. Well done, congratulations. Jimmy Legg saying, ha, 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 super celebrating his 10 out of 10 tonight. That's something for Jimmy to celebrate. Fantastic. I bet you Angie can hear him screaming and whooping in the background. Terrific stuff. Gene Kelly, you're truly an evil gent, says Gene. Yes, the quiz at the end has to be a challenge. Fu swithered between A and B, but he managed to get a 10 out of 10. Well done, Graham Fraser. Of course, you had to. Brilliant stuff. Well navigated. Ian Bruce, 10 out of 10. Now a Scotland win. Oh, here's to that. Ian, could it happen? Could it happen? My goodness. My goodness. Petehead is saying, and with that, I'm calling it a day. Thanks as always for organising Aquavidi, and thanks, Shilton, for participating and being a great guest. And to all of you, see you next time. Slanchova. Hellswood is saying, marvellous VPub this evening. Cheers to Shilton. Great VPub. Excellent stuff, says George P. Gene Kelly saying, yet another fabulous VPub. Fantabulous VPub. Thursday evening is the best 2 hours of the week. Gene, you're so generous. Thank you so much. And Whiskey with Molly saying, can I just say, Shilton, as always, displays a love and a knowledge of whiskey we all love. Thanks for rescuing my phone and Kendall, big man. That's straight from Ben. Above and beyond. Moan the Tartan Army, says Hellswood. Aye, Moan the Tartan Army, indeed. That would be amazing. What a weekend we could have. Anyway, that's tomorrow. This is tonight. Shilton, I'd like to thank you for your warm hugs, your handshakes, your big smiles, your enthusiasm, your excitement, the time that you take to make everybody that comes across your products, your discussions, your presence, whatever it is, and make them all feel seen. I think it's a talent. I think you do it very, very well. And I think it helps just how much you love the whiskey. I hope that that's come across tonight for everybody to see. But it's always a pleasure to be in your company, my friend. And it's been an absolute pleasure to welcome you behind the bar at the vPub. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Roy. Thanks, everyone.
And if you hang around until the credits roll, my friend, we'll raise a wee glass after the event and say goodnight. If you're free. If you're going to peel off to your bed, I completely understand, buddy. Thank you, my friend. Cheers, Shilton.
Cheers.
And there we have it. What a lovely man. Fantastic guy. If you find yourself at an event, at a tasting, at a festival is most likely a place that you're going to see him. Maybe he's hosting an event at your local retailer or something like that, and Shilton's hanging around. Walk up, shake his hand, say hello, spend a wee bit of time with him. And I think you'll fall for him like most of us have. Jimmy Legg has bought me a generous dram. Thanks, Mr. Almeida. You're all class. You too, Roy. Jimmy Legg, thank you very, very much for your generous dram at the end, my friend. Thank you, buddy, and you're absolutely right. He is all class. Congratulations to everybody on the quiz at the end for the fantastic participation right up to the end. Fantastic hanging out with you and Shilton tonight. Next week, well, the next couple of weeks, I was keeping a slot for Roddy. I spoke to him on Monday night, and I think what's going to happen is we're going to push it out till after summer, just because of the schedule. So that gives me 2 slots to fill next week, the next 2 weeks. One of them is going to be a kind of edit on the vPub of last week, which was the top 10 distilleries. More to follow on that. The other one is going to remain open, and then we'll close out in July with 2 vPubs before we finish up for the summer break. On the 4th of July, it's going to be the best of the year so far, and on the 11th of July, it's going to be a kind of gamified version of the categories that we did tonight. So you only need 5 whiskies, but instead of doing it the last way we did it, as I promised, we'll do it on the vPub categories. So that'll be the Permashelf pour, the crowd pleaser, it'll be the Decadent pour, it'll be the VIP pour, and it'll be the attention grabber. And that's how we'll gamify things as we go out in the last vPub before the summer break. And that's kind of how the weeks ahead are going to look. More to follow here. Obviously, patrons will get the heads up on everything first. And I'm hopefully going to be able to do 2 Sunday night lock-ins before the summer break as well. Until then, I look very much forward to welcoming you in the next couple of weeks, but I'll raise this glass of delicious whiskies that I've shared throughout tonight and look forward to hanging out with you next week. Until then, I'll remind you all that you're very dearly loved, and I look forward to seeing you then. Sláinte mhath, whiskey folk.